You don't know my father like I do, Roy.
The Nigerian Television Authority will always be a part of history. And another one is in the offing now, as one of the 36 states of Nigeria goes to polls to elect the governor of that state. And that state is Ekiti. Ekiti Kete, like the people, locals there will call it. They are going to polls to elect another governor. And the platform available to Nigerians to monitor that election is that platform we call Ekiti Decides on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. And although this platform is exclusively to inform you and let you into the happenings in one of the southwest states of Nigeria, we have not concealed all the information just to this platform alone. You would notice that we have been informing you and letting you know since this countdown started of the activities in Ado-Ekiti and other parts of that state. My name is Femi Okewo with the pleasure of bringing this segment to you. And the personalities who will be helping us shaping history from this end are already seated and ready, and I can tell you it's a very rich panel. I have on the far side of this panel a professor of political science from the University of Jos, Professor Pandung Shah. You're welcome to Ekiti Decides.
Thank you very much. Good morning, viewers.
And next to him is someone who makes us a little more comfortable, just possibly as the Ekiti people should be comfortable with their presence. He is the AIG for Zone 7, AIG Taiwo Lakano. You are welcome to Ekiti Decides.
Good morning, I'm delighted. Good morning, viewers.
Yeah. And I feel like skipping this personality to the lady near me, but let me go in the order I have started because he is a person who has done so much in terms of educating Nigerians on the electoral process in Nigeria. The Director of Voter Education of INEC, Mr. Oluwole Osazi Uze. You're welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
And now the lady that adds color to this panel, Barrister Ebere Ifendu. She is the National President of Women in Politics Forum. You're welcome to the studios of Ekiti Decides.
Thank you.
Now, before we allow the panelists to begin to give us their thinking and their insight into what's been happening in Ekiti and how far we are ready, the Ekiti people are ready with a report and they want to launch us into this discussion by giving us something that's happening around there. So let's take a report from Ekiti.
Out of the Odondo State of the Federal Republic of Nigeria was created on October 1, 1996 by the then head of state, General Sani Abacha. The number of administrations that the state has witnessed in the last 22 years are clear testimony that it has gone through thick and thin in its political sojourns. Since inception, Ekiti State has produced different administrations ranging from the first military administrator, Lieutenant Colonel Mohammed Bawa, to Navy Captain Atanda Yusuf, before the advent of the civilian administration with Otumba Niyi Adebayo as the pioneer civilian governor in 1999. From 1999 to date, Ekiti State has had the taste of 11 administrations, both substantive and enacting capacity, a development analysts described as average of one administration in 2 years.
Ekiti has been very, very unstable when it comes to choosing leaders. And personally, I think one of our problems is that we don't take holistic decisions while choosing our leader.
In the last 22 years, The homogeneity of the people of the state, which has been a factor in determining their leaders, has produced over 50 National Assembly members, while the 26 constituencies of the state have had more than 130 representations in the 5 assemblies the state has produced. Achieving the dream of the founding fathers and those who struggle for the creation of the state is a factor that remains pertinent in the minds of people who have not been satisfied with the chain of development in the state in the time past.
At the inception of the state, the founding fathers advised on how Ekiti should be developed. They came up with a blueprint, but unfortunately, this blueprint.
We cannot say that the state, the expectation of our forefathers has been achieved, not even halfway. They labored to get the state, they did everything to get the state. I'm not saying all the past governors didn't do well. Until date, I'm not saying they didn't do well, but they have not worked to expectation of the masses.
Ekiti has come of age. You can see the type of development we are having in Ekiti now, even presently. It's not yet the peak of development ordinarily, but we are still expecting the incoming government to continue from where the others they are stopped.
It is the hope of the people that there will be a workable blueprint, which will be a veritable guide and working tools to translate the state to expected level. Time will tell where the pendulum will swing, with focus on the state as it decides which direction its political compass will face in the next 4 years of political tenure. Ayode Jogunshakin, NTA News.
Thank you very much, Ayo. That's the state some people will choose to call the state of professors. And I want to start my line of question with a professor here. The political development of Ekiti State, a high turnover of governors from that report. Is that positive for a state?
Well, Ekiti State, like you said, is an important, state for our discussion, today. What we have witnessed so far is that state, for our viewers, to understand, is a state that is made up of people with high level of education, and like you said, so many professors. Apart from that, there are also notable Nigerians that have come out from that state. There are lawyers, there are senior advocates of Nigeria, there are those in businesses. There are those educationists. Afe Babalola, I'm told, is from that state. So this point about education is very important because it will have to help us explain, how voters relate to elections, whether education is an important, factor in describing elections. But Ekiti is also a state with it's also an agrarian state. It's a state with so much mineral resources. I've done some work there, and I know that it's a state that has so much mineral resources. Now, if we put all these together, is to give us an understanding that this is the people that are quite committed, to having leadership that can move that state forward. It's a leadership that can also help, in transforming what they have, what God has endowed them with, to move the state forward. But again, it's a state that we have seen so much of these leaders, and I will arguably say that there has been little leadership. We have so much leaders, but little leadership. Too much politics, little of governance, I would want to argue. Because what we have seen so far is the inability, of the leadership to transform the state in a manner that will, help citizens to realize that they would enjoy the benefits, of democracy. Okay. In other words, that democracy has not really provided, what the Ekiti State would require. This is, I'm saying this with due respect, to all those that have governed the state, that we still expect more in terms of development. And this is not just restricted, to Ekiti. It's a whole Nigerian problem. Okay. So I needed to say that in order not to carve out Ekiti, for this kind of criticism. But I think generally, yes, those governors that have come in and out of the government house in Ekiti still have, a lot of questions to answer in terms of their contributions, to citizens.
Yeah, in addressing this first set of questions, I want us to leave our area of specialization, and so I'm going to talk to the AIG. When you hear of Ekiti State, what comes to your mind?
I was privileged to be the commissioner of Ekiti a couple of years back. Like he rightly said, the Ekiti people can be very friendly, but when it comes to the aspect of politics, that's why you see the other side of Ekiti people. They get a bit aggressive. I'm sorry to say this. And maybe because of the education. And one thing I discovered is that even the educated elites that have been mentioned, they're not even in Ekiti. They're outside Ekiti. Yeah. The Ekiti are peasants. Then you have traders, Igbo traders. Then you also have Igala people who are farmers. So they themselves do not really have much to do. It's not really a buoyant state. So most of the time they depend so much on politics and attaining positions so that they could survive. That's why sometimes in police parlance, we call it a flashpoint. Anytime it comes to, if you look at the history of Ekiti, the antecedent, 1966, they had this way, it emanated from there. When during the period of Omoburi, Ondo was part of Ekiti was part of Ondo. Yes. And we had a series of issues in 1983. And the last election that I held when I was there, it was a bit peaceful, but there's no way we will not have problems. That's why people are complaining that we have 30,000. We know the reason why we have 30,000 men on ground. Because every area in Ekiti is a flashpoint. And that is why we want a situation where when you are going to vote, you have that confidence when you see policemen on the road. And another thing they are fond of doing is ballot snatching. So all this, having enough men on ground will prevent all these attacks.
We're already talking about those specific, but Mr. Oluwale Osazeuzi, you are a lawyer, a political scientist too, by virtue of your calling now. Ekiti certainly is an interesting state to you in terms of electioneering. But let's look at their political evolution. What comes to you as a person?
Thank you. I'm not so sure how qualified I am to speak about the politics of Ekiti State. I've never lived there. I did live and work in the neighboring state of Ondo for a couple of years, but had the opportunity to visit regularly. But it's hard for me to really put my finger on the tempo of the state. But I do know from history that although Ekiti had been volatile in the past and the troubles of the First and Second Republic, but I think its recent history has been relatively peaceful. All the elections we've conducted there recently have been quite good. The last election was conducted, there was a lot of tension, a lot of people expected trouble and everything else, but I think that election went on very well. There was high security presence, and people said that that's where I think the phrase first came in, that we're militarizing the election. But on the contrary, turnout was higher than we've always experienced, surprisingly, even with that. So obviously people were not scared. Rather, I think they were reassured by the presence of heavy security then. The same thing has come. I do think, relatively speaking, that there's been more deployment of security than in the 4 years ago. And don't forget, regardless of the doomsday sayers and everything that went on, one party won in all local government, which at that time was unprecedented. Yeah. That tells you a bit about the Ekiti people. And he defeated an incumbent governor. What will happen now? I don't know. And we had no inkling. Most people who were projecting did not have an inkling that it was going to turn out the way it did. And it was one of those elections nobody really challenged, legally speaking. And of course, there were fanciful notions of photochromic ballot papers where you vote for one party, somehow automatically it slides and goes to another party. But I think that was just obvious to everybody that people who lost were just trying to justify what happened.
Mrs. Efendu, Ekiti people have a mind of their own. At least one can get that from everybody's submission. They have a mind of their own. That cuts across the strata of society, the professors and the peasants. How could that have evolved, in your opinion?
Well, I think, in my opinion, it's because of participation. People are anxious to participate. People are anxious to see good governance. People are interested in the running of the state. So a situation like that, because they are learned, and the learned ones, I think, will have to bring up the peasants on board.
It's about advocacy and letting people know that governance is a collective thing. I think it's happening in Ekiti. But why I'm a little worried is I can't really say that as women we've had a good representation in Ekiti State. But be that as it may, we are ready to see what will come out of this election, and then looking forward to 2019, where we have the other elections like the Senate and the rest.
How do you think that in a state as vibrant as that, women cannot push their level up?
No, it's not about pushing their level up. Let me say that because of the violence, like we have been talking about security challenges, and then it's a very big problem for women. We don't want to be associated with that, and we don't also want to be a victim also. So it's a problem for us. So we are looking at, if this election will come out peacefully as we are all expecting, excluding the overzealousness of some of the security men, because I think that what happened some few days ago was actually not like what the security people actually want to have in place, but maybe some overzealousness, so that's enough to scare some people. But I'm hoping that our women will brace it and then come out to participate.
Mr. Lakano, now let's begin to look at this election. First, the police has given its position, but it has never gone away. People say that 30,000 for a state in election is an overkill. What do you say to that?
Well, I've explained this time and time again. The problem with Ekiti is not only Ekiti. We've had two elections previously in Ondo State. We had 26,000, and it worked for us. It was very peaceful. In Anambra, we are always saying that, for the past years, it's probably the best election we've ever had. It was extremely peaceful. I was on ground. We had 26,000. In Ekiti, which we envisaged might be tougher than those two states. They're starting having about 30. When you talk of 30, how many men do we have on ground? Don't forget that within the 30, you have pilots, you have engineers, we have drivers, and the contiguous states too, we have policemen too. They are part of the 30. Contiguous like Ondo.
Explain that. How would the contiguous state count along with the ones in
which we know from experience is that you could have hoodlums and miscreants coming in from all these states into Ekiti because of this election. So they are now manning the borders to make sure that those who don't have business in Ekiti, go into Ekiti to commit havoc. So that's why we have range of policemen there.
Tell us what they will be doing for elections.
For elections, we have it's being coordinated by a DIG, Deputy Inspector General of Police, Abila, very strategic thinker, highly operational, and is being assisted by 3 commissioners of police. We have 3 central seats. Each central seat is being headed by a commissioner of police. Then we also have 8 deputy commissioners of police. We have 18 assistant commissioners of police. Out of the 2,451 wards, in each polling booth, we have 2,451 polling booths. Each one will be manned by 4 policemen to be assisted by 2 from other agencies. Then don't forget that we have 177 wards, and of course, 16 local governments. So apart from that, each local government, we have a unit of mobile made up of 63 men. Those ones, we have placed them in strategic areas in case there's need for them to assist, or in case there's a distress call. They will not move anywhere. They are just stationed somewhere. And everybody has a tag, an identification tag, so that we won't have issue of people wearing police uniform and stuff. And even each tag confines a policeman to a certain point. He cannot move from that place to another place. Apart from this, we have police mobile force, we have counter-terrorism unit, we have special protection unit, we have anti-bomb unit, we have helicopters, 2 helicopters on area surveillance. And the advantage of helicopters is that they can land anywhere. Like when we were in Anambra, anytime there was an incident, we quickly move in and move to Oka or move to Enugu. So that's how it's going to be. You see, the technical aspect of it, people do not understand. Everybody is useful. Everybody has a role to play. Everybody. That we have what we call special forces. These guys were trained in Belarus. In fact,
we'll still take those details. Mr. Osazeuzi, you know the psyche of election officials. Do they feel more confident in situations like this?
Well, let me put it this way. In any exercise such as an election, complex exercise like this, although it's a civil exercise, one of the things that affects the outcome and credibility of elections is how it is perceived to be, whether it's perceived to be safe or not safe. If people don't perceive it to be safe, then they will not turn out. If parents don't perceive it to be safe, they will not allow their children to work as ad hoc officials of the commission. The INEC officials, permanent staff, will also not want to be out there if there's a perception that it is generally unsafe. Say ditto for election observers, for the media who cover the elections and things like that. So peaceful elections, the environment is an essential, is a sine qua non for a good election, the credibility of an election. So yes. But the other side, some people argue that once there's too heavy a presence of security men, people will be jittery. But sometimes some people argue that, well, that is only those who have mischief in mind.
Prof, why does that, where did that come from? That you see policemen everywhere, that their presence can also scare? How did we develop that? I thought that should give us some idea of a safe environment. But in Nigeria, people say the more police and soldiers you see around, the more scary this environment is. Where did we develop that from?
Yeah, theoretically, it's sound to have a safe environment. And of course, the Electoral Act is very clear about the role of the security forces. I would personally prefer a situation where I would see the presence, of security officers. It will give me the psychological, empowerment to participate and to feel that the environment is safe. Yes. I think where the problem emanated from was basically that the security at some point, became so negative, in their interaction with citizens at that level. Okay. And secondly, if we take the Ekiti pre-election period, what happened the last 2-3 days is enough, to scare people away. Because basically, if you have security officers who had gone to occupy government house, who were told on the media, we had seen them tear gas people, ostensibly to maintain some stability and peace in the area. Yeah. If you create that scenario, then of course you will scare people away. But if the conduct is so designed in such a way that, like he said, borders are being patrolled, you're keeping the place safe, surveillance and so on. If that is the scenario, then I think that it's an empowerment, for people to go out and vote. But if it is basically about just intervening in the crisis and in such a way that it ignites more problems, then of course people would have big problems in.
Same question to you, but is it more about the conduct of our police or security officials, how they carry themselves, or the conduct of the electorate, not wanting anybody to intercept their own conduct too? Which one plays higher?
Both, I think, but the conduct of the security personnel, I must say, because we look up to them, like Prof rightly said now. What transpired in a few days ago in Ekiti, is quite enough to scare people from participating. I, for one, was supposed to be in Ekiti as an observer, but I refused to go. Yes, so I have to be very honest about this. So I think that their conduct, some of them, somehow are beginning to show signs of partisanship, which is not good. They are supposed to go there as neutral people, just maintain peace and order. Even if you have an interest, you don't show that interest. You must be seen, to protect the electorates. And if the electorates themselves see you as somebody coming in to, make the place safe for them, they will want to come out. I just pray that this will not affect the number of people coming out to
Let's look at this scenario. There is also this theory that permit me to use the word noise. The noise about deployment of security officials comes higher when there is a different government at the state conducting an election from that at the national. If police deployed 30,000 in a state that is run by APC now, will the noise be the same?
Definitely, it's politics. Definitely, let's be honest, it's politics. You know, you want to think that the other party is trying to use the kind of military power or something to subdue your interest or whatever. So it's politics. Yes, it will happen. But we are talking about 30,000 policemen. Let us also understand that we have the other security agencies that are there. So give and take, we are looking at over 40,000 men and women of the security, you know, involved in the election. So how many people really are coming out to vote?
In Anambra, Mr. Osaze, we were here in the studio, and this same, possibly even Kogi, this kind of issues came up. And at the end of it all, a lot of the shots we even saw, we hardly saw policemen in some of those shots.
Correct.
Can we be justified to be so scary about security deployment?
Well, we should worry, but I think the focus should be on how professional they are. The focus should not be on necessarily on the numbers. Yes, in an ideal situation, we should not have a high presence of security agents on the field on election day. In other climes, even within the African context, the African continent, you see elections go on normal working days, and people vote and go about their own business. But we must take into consideration our political history and things that have happened. We were in the studio together in Kogi. We're here in Bayelsa. And in Bayelsa, there were elections. Southern Ijaw, for example, we could not, because, as it were, it would appear the security forces were overwhelmed or did not want to react in the way they probably ought to have reacted to avoid bloodshed. Because of that, that election was inconclusive. Similar thing in Kogi, the election was inconclusive. There are times that, for whatever reasons, maybe because of their tactics, their training, they don't want to react with equal force or more to overpower those miscreants who want to disrupt the process. Elections should not be about bloodshed. And if they did, I'm sure that there will be a lot of bloodshed. Rivers will be flowing with blood because of elections. And that's, I don't think, was worth it. So, in discussing security, we must weigh the two. Take examples of Anambra, Edo, and Ondo. Well, the security were large, but the elections were peaceful compared to Kogi and Bayelsa.
Mr. Lakono, what kind of training do police officers get for elections? Possibly just from experience. They just move from one state to the other, and that's all the training they get?
No. We usually prepared. You know, it takes a long time for us to get ready. It's not something that, that happens overnight. Because most times we usually have workshops, we have seminars. Seminars are conducted, even by foreign embassies like US. Sometimes we interact with them, we hold workshops, seminars, and the men too are also trained internally. We have our training pattern. Don't forget that we are strategists. We have a lot of very senior officers who are well informed when it comes to politics.
They were trained. They were trained to become that.
It's not, when you talk of politics, and when you talk of a situation, we look at it from. We don't look at it from political angle. We look at it operationally. How do we solve this problem? You know, where are the challenges? We assess the challenges, and we now provide solutions. And even like INEC, we had series of meetings with them, series of lectures with them. We even invited them to lecture us on the processes. So we don't have we are professionals, and that is why, sincerely, believe me, we've been succeeding. Only I don't know this about this apathy against police. Look at Anambra. Look at what happened. It was an opposition party that won. It was nobody complained. We were on ground. If you tell me that we don't see a policeman on the road, you don't need to see policemen on the road.
No, I didn't say that as a negative thing. No. I said it as that people really did not see that they were.
You cannot see us because we are not the focus of attention. The focus of attention, of course, will be the polling booths and men going to vote. But we are there. We are invisible. Okay. So the number of men we have, and please let me say this.
Let's quickly run back to Ekiti, where Kunle Adeyeye is standing by to give us some of the information he has gathered. Kunle, we are with you now. Are you already moving around? And let us know where you are now.
Congress. Dr. John Kayode Fayemi. We are in Unit 9 in Ward 11 in Ogilolo Street in Ishon, Ekiti. The ward is a combination of three communities of Ishon, Ilafon, and Ilemesho. And in the about 345 registered voters are expected to cast their ballots here. And the candidate of the APC himself will be here at exactly 10 a.m. So for now, this is the situation.
Behind you there is a queue. Of course, we are to assume that accreditation is on already. Confirm that. What exactly is happening on that queue?
The signal. Good morning, studio. Well, voting and accreditation are going on simultaneously, because unlike before when people will accredit and come back after some hours, but now the two are going on simultaneously. You get accredited immediately, you cast your ballot and you go your way, but some have cast their ballots and they are still hanging around. That is the situation at the moment.
What's the conduct of the people like?
Okay. What is what? Oh,
what is it like?
The electorate have been very orderly. There have been no fights. Even the party agents, they've been there just watching, having nearly nothing to do. There haven't been anything like crisis or misunderstanding here. The people have really conducted themselves in a very civil manner.
Thank you very much, Kule. We'll be back with you as you move around. Thank you. So, we're beginning to see possibly we may have a good story to tell at the end of it all. We were discussing this just when Kunle came on, and it's a confirmation that possibly people are interested in this process. But let's look at what the turnout is likely to be. We can't use this for now. This is good. But let's look at the picture of what we have here. What are you expecting the turnout to be?
First, let me commend INEC for this new introduction.
Yes.
You know, in the past, you do accreditation, you come back, you know, at a later period of time. And that actually was a problem because people could just accredit and then walk away. Yes, and walk away. So this innovation is quite good, the continuous voting system. So it's something that we need to commend. On voter turnout, it's a big issue, and a lot of factors, you know, would account for this turnout. First, if we start from the discussion that we just ended about the fear of violence, if that, you know, is taken into consideration, it might, in some places, deter people from coming out to vote. So that's one factor. The fear, you know, that violence, you know, may be perpetrated, you know, by actors, you know, who are in the field. Remember that this election is quite competitive. It's going to be keenly contested, and the events, you know, before today, you know, have shown clearly that is going to be a keenly contested election. Now, I think that the turnout is going to be very, very high in some areas. Why? Because of the candidates that are out there. They have fought, you know, verbally, and they're willing, you know, to maintain government. I mean, to maintain their hold on the state apparatus. That's government house. So PDP would want to keep that. APC would want to seize that. So that will help us, you know, to explain whether the turnout is going to be high. I think that the turnout is going to be high in all the places, with the exception of those areas that may have security problems.
Over 600,000 PVCs already collected, so we're expecting over 600,000. Can we do an exercise, Mr. Osazi, something you do regularly? Please remind us what the sequence of election would be, sequence of voting.
Well, as your correspondent rightly stated, the people who have PVCs come out with their PVC. And the first point of call, they see the first official of INEC. And first of all, they are asked to line up in an orderly manner. And all the reports I've been getting is that the thing has been very peaceful and the voters have behaved themselves very, very well. It's been very orderly. And in some areas, you might separate the men from the women. And they come and they produce their card. If it's for that unit, they are told. If it's not for their unit, they are requested to leave the unit and go to the appropriate unit. And then the card reader, of course, is being used. Yes. And they'll check to see whether that card will be read by the card reader. If it's a genuinely issued card, INEC issued that card and will be read by the card reader. And then you go to the next stage, which is the authentication of the voter, the person who has presented himself or herself for voting. And the thumbprint will be taken, the fingerprints will be checked to see that the biometrics stored in the card reader, stored in the PVC itself are the same as the person presenting himself or herself. If you pass that test, you go on to collect your ballot paper, you issue the ballot paper, you go and vote in secret. If you do not pass the test, if it's not a card, if the card reader does not read your card, then that's not a genuine card. And if you don't live there, you'll be handed over to the security agencies.
Let's take a pause. That is a big step by INEC. No more incidence forms.
No, there will not be incidence forms. If for any reason your biometrics are not read, the register has been designed in such a way that it will acknowledge on the register, it will take that, look, this person presented himself or herself, but the card reader did not read the biometrics. And by the way, the biometrics can be captured then and there. Because once we're satisfied that card was genuinely issued and we've seen from the photo ID that it's your card, then we recapture your biometrics. Maybe it wasn't properly captured. Then you will recapture then and there, and then you proceed to it. But it will be acknowledged that on the register that you, at the first attempt, or second attempt, third attempt, did not capture your biometrics, so it will be recorded for audit purposes.
So the card reader has the capacity to dictate whether this PVC is genuine or not.
Oh yeah, right from time. That's the first thing it does. And it has almost 100% accuracy in that regard. And that's why that is important. Is you recall that in the build-up to this election, there have been issues of cloning cards and things like that. So that's it. And even before then, there were issues of some business centers. I know one person in Kwara State, for example, was arrested issuing ID cards, pretending them to be genuine PVC cards. So those cards will not be read because they're not smart cards. Even if they are smart cards, it will not contain the details that the INEC one contains and security features and the source codes which they communicate. The card issued by INEC communicates with the card reader. That's part of it.
So let me allow you to finish the sequence you were telling us.
So if once you finish the accreditation process, you now go on to the next desk where you are issued with a ballot paper. The register is again ticked so that you have been issued a ballot, you're intending to vote, you've been issued a ballot paper, and then you go in secret, your cubicle, and you vote, and then you come out and drop it in the open to actually cast your vote. And why that is important is that we have asked the agents to arrange the sitting area in such a way that people don't, the secrecy of the ballot is being maintained for two reasons. One, people don't want others to know it's an offense to disclose how a person voted. It's an offense. And secondly, we are very concerned about this. It's not a recent trend, but it's a widespread trend.
You read my mind. That's part of the voting process. We had the news or the claims, particularly in Edo election, where people said after you voted, somebody was waiting to go and pay you and all that. So it means somebody must have been around to verify who you voted for you to qualify to be paid. So what is being done about that?
Well, under the guise of protecting the interests of their parties and candidates, in recent past, agents, they might be accredited agents, might be loosely agents of parties, have positioned themselves in such a way as to be in a position to either see how the voter is voting, or the voters, in certain understandings which was not familiar with us, will disclose how they voted. And the main parties, what you call the main parties, are equally guilty of this. So then you go to this side or that side to collect whatever it is that you had to collect. But that is being discouraged. As the AIG said, there have been a series of meetings apart from security. We've been worried about any breach of the electoral process, not just security, but breaches like this money buying and bribery, it's an offense. But we might not be able to completely eliminate it, quite honestly, but we are trying to do all we can to minimize it and blocking those loopholes that they usually use. And that's why we also don't encourage people taking photographs of how they voted. It serves no purpose. The only purpose we know it will be a criminal purpose, and that is to use it as a basis for collecting money. So all those.
Here comes again another very critical balance that the police have to do. You monitor the polling units, and yet you're not supposed to interfere with the voting process, but you're supposed to watch against people such as this last issue who would want to vote and go and collect money. How then do you police an environment and yet not be accused of interfering with the voting process?
Actually, we don't get involved. When we are alerted by INEC officials there is a problem, we intervene. We just stand and watch what is going on.
And if you stand and watch someone vote and go and pick money in a car boot somewhere,
course, that's one of the electoral offences. Of course, if an offence is being committed in your presence, you act. We react immediately.
We have monitored and observed previous elections. We are beginning to see a number of things happen at polling units, which either are legitimate, but then we bring in those illegalities into polling units. How, in your best opinion, can the authorities, INEC, security, and society generally, watch against people taking advantage of the freedom of electioneering to perpetrate evil?
Yeah, that goes back to the politicians themselves. You know, they are showing so much anxiety. You know, I would say that INEC is doing so well, and then the security agencies. I mean, but in Ondo and Edo elections, I think the security people were either overwhelmed or they were complacent. I don't know what to say, because actually it was seen that people were buying votes openly. That was what happened in those two elections. But I want to believe that in Ekiti elections, you know, coming from the society and the people, civil society people talking about it and the rest, I want to believe that the police this time will be very conscious. Like the AIG said, yes, they will not interfere, but once they see such an act, they should react immediately, because we have to stop it.
When you started reacting to answering my question, you started from the politicians themselves. It doesn't seem that the politicians themselves want to check this.
I mean, they are desperate. It's clear, you know, sign of desperation. They want to win at all costs, and however they are going to get it, it doesn't matter. And in the past, we used to hear, declare the election first, let them go to court. You know, so we want to minimize such situations. And the only way we can achieve it actually is to have what INEC did before this election. There was so much sensitization. They were in Ekiti for, you know, a couple of times, doing one thing or the other, talking, you know, to the political actors themselves and then to the electorates. I think, let's hopefully think that it will, you know, make an impact. And then the number of security people, we have seen that they made mistakes previously. We are hoping that we take the present day of, today, that there's a proper voting, there will be a change of attitude that will make people come out to vote, and also, you know, make people know that this is time for them to live right.
We will soon join Ekiti again, but please, before we go over to Ekiti, let's take your comment, our political scientist, on this trend of every politicians finding loopholes for every step that is taken in our electioneering process. What can be done to this new trend of people buying, or parties buying votes?
Well, it's a very complicated matter. Nigerians have always devised new ways, you know, of circumventing the law and making sure that they try to achieve their own goals. I think as a country, we are developing in our political culture I think the politicians themselves know that what they're doing is wrong. But because of their specific interests in trying to capture power by all means, they are perpetuating this. We are hoping that gradually, as education becomes, more entrenched, political education becomes more entrenched, new laws, are developed. Psychology, is being imputed, into educational programs and so on. We are hoping that the politicians would see reason to think otherwise. Okay. There should be innovations, actually. We should learn from countries that have succeeded, and bring in, new methods, new mechanisms, new laws, if we think that can help, to help, block these intentions of politicians.
Thank you very much. We'll take a break from our Abuja studios and return to Ekiti, where Ameze is ready in the studios, Nigeria Decides studios in Ekiti, to give us a lowdown of the happenings on ground there. Ameze, over to you.
Thank you very much, Femi. We are here live in Ekiti Decides studios in Ekiti, Ekiti State Capital. Finally, the die is cast. The race to Ayaba House in the next 4 years is on. We're there. And we must let you know or remind you that Ekiti is the land of the hills, the land of men and women who pride themselves as men of honor and integrity. And this is a litmus test to show how much prepared they are to take Ekiti to the hills and let the sun of democracy shine through Ekiti in the next 4 years. My name is Ameze Igebwanyari, and on behalf of the crew here, we are set to bring you unbiased expression of opinions and views of the electorate and other stakeholders in this all-important Ekiti election. We've done it before, Bayelsa, Edo, Anambra, Kogi. The list is endless, and here we are at Ekiti. The best is what you will get. My name is Ameze Igebwanyari, like I said, and I'm not alone in the studios. I have some beautiful, calm and calculated ladies here, and very seated close to me is the lady from Access Nigeria.
Grace Jerry.
Yes, Grace Jerry. And of course, I have Cynthia Mbamalu. She's representing Yaga Africa. For starters, before we get to the field to bring you reports from our crop of reporters who have already gone to the field to give us situation reports, we want to start with this all-important issue of seeming voter apathy. INEC has given us data of 913,000 registered voters, and only about 600,000 have collected their PVCs. It boils down to the fact that a lot of people are not ready to come out and exercise their franchise. If you recall, the census of 2006 puts Ekiti figure at over 2,300,000 in population. And 12 years down the road, we are still recording 913 voters.
Yeah.
What do you think are the factors that are responsible for this?
Yeah.
Cynthia?
Yeah, so I think one is still that that level of consciousness amongst the citizens on the importance of the vote.
Okay.
I think over a period of time, lots of citizens had started to lose confidence in the process. But we've seen an increase actually, because for instance, amongst the registered voters, we've seen more younger people register to vote. So for instance, amongst the 913,000 registered voters, 51% of them are persons between 18 and 35, based on INEC's analysis. And it shows that they are younger people, and over 300,000 of them are students that registered to vote in this CVR that was just concluded in Ekiti. And it shows that there are people that are not getting conscious. But the thing is, they still need for more voter education. And that is why for the advocacy towards INEC is always to start voter education early. And I think Ekiti actually set the pace, because in Anambra, we didn't have, we saw an improvement compared to Anambra. INEC, as at May, had been going to local government to do town hall meetings and engage citizens citizens, and we observed the pre-election of environment, and we saw that they even had special voter education for women, for persons with disability, and for youth. So you would see different initiatives like the Vote Not Fight, you see the Access to Nigeria initiative for targeting at persons with disability, and you see initiatives like the Watching the Vote, targeting at the voters in particular. And what we're looking out for is how do you get more voters, have confidence in the process, and realize the importance of their vote, because that is what voters need to understand, that their vote is important. Staying away from the vote is still voting, because if you don't come out to vote, the election will be decided by those that have turned out to vote. So you need to come and make that choice to vote. And what happens today determines what will go on in 4 years in Ekiti State. So for us, it's for people to start coming out to vote. But for more voter education, we didn't see much voter education from the NOA, for instance. So we need the work from INEC to be complemented by NOA and even civil society organizations to start engaging. But this morning, as you go around, you see people turning out, which I think is impressive, because compared to Anambra, we had poor turnout of voters, and we are hoping in Ekiti would have higher turnout of voters. In 2014, Ekiti had about 47.8% turnout of voters. But this time, I'm hoping people of Ekiti will surprise us. I'm hoping we get 60 to 70% turnout. We're hopeful that we'll have voters turnout for Ekiti.
Grace, you are one of those persons living with disabilities. You have told us before we came on set that you gave INEC a pass mark. They've done well,
exactly,
because they have been able to give these people a sense of belonging.
Yes.
What's your take on the process generally?
All right, generally I would say, like you have said, I give INEC a big, pass mark, because, we took recommendations, from the barriers that people with disabilities face, and as such has reduced the participation of this community of people with disabilities in the electoral process. We took the barriers, the findings, and we took it before INEC and even NOA, like Cynthia mentioned, and we say if these barriers can be addressed, there will be an increased participation. And like I speak to you presently, during the Anambra election, we noticed that INEC took, immediately they started working with some of the recommendations, first by ensuring that they have the form EC40H, which would capture data of people with disabilities at the, polling units. And one of the things we recorded as a result of the massive sensitization we carried out in Abuja, we recorded at least 4 people per polling unit, people with disabilities who turned out to vote. And for us, that is a shift, because now we've recorded like 4. Our target for Ekiti is to have at least 10 people with disabilities at a polling unit who have, exercised their franchise. And I just got news from, the field, because we have roving officers, observers, and these are people with disabilities themselves who are roving and gathering data and sharing with us of life happenings at the polling unit. And somewhere in Ikere earlier, about 5 people with disabilities already have voted. And it's interesting that INEC has made it, a priority, for people with disabilities, the elderly. So I heard that people with disabilities just come and they just go forward, and they're given priority vote. Good. For us, this is huge. And one of the things that, INEC recently did was to introduce the form EC30 PWD. And this form shows stage-by-stage procedures and processes of voting on the election day, especially for the hearing impaired community, whereby they come and they won't have to rely on someone to show them what to do. This form captures the stage-by-stage procedures, and it's not just for the hearing impaired community. Even those who don't understand English can look at this symbol. And so for me, it's huge. And like Cynthia said, we're looking out for Ekiti people to do it differently this time around, especially the community of people with disability. We want to record at least 10 people per polling unit.
Now let's talk about the new adopted pattern or system of voting in the country. It was first adopted in the senatorial election in Port Harcourt, and what's your take on it? It was used in Benin and in Edo State, and a pass mark was given to it. What do you make of it? You come, accredit, do the accreditation, then you vote immediately. What do you think? about it?
I think
What are the benefits inherent?
One of the things it does, it's one, it reduces the stress on the polling unit.
Yes.
So before, if you remember in 2015 elections, when you come, you accredit, you go back, then you come back to
People
vote.
are not.
So what happens is some
don't
people
come back.
will not come back.
Yes.
So you see there's a disparity between accredited and the final votes
Yes.
cast. So this for us was a huge improvement, and it came from recommendations from CSOs that let's have a simultaneous process. So if you look at Edo and Ondo, Anambra, you'd see that you had more people just accredit, vote, and leave. And some voters would even want to stay back and watch. So it has made the process quite smooth. It has also made it impossible for people to go accredit in different places and vote in different places. So it also reduced the chances to manipulate the process. And I think because now with the card reader, you can't even vote more than once, because once it's authentic, the card reader identifies you, you can't vote, and then the indelible ink is also applied on the cuticle of your left finger. So what it has done is, once you go and register, once you go and get accredited, you vote. So you'd see before by 2, most polling units, and the process is concluding already. In Anambra, we saw early close of polls at different polling units. So that is what it also does. It reduces the time people have to stand and wait in the sun or in the rain. I'm hoping it doesn't rain today, because this is raining season.
Exactly.
So reduce the number of time you have to spend at the polling unit. Once you are accredited, you vote, and then you can stay back as a voter and see the process, or you can go home and come back at the point of counting, because voting is to conclude from 2 p.m. based on those at the polling unit. So I think it's a huge improvement, and we want voters to know that it's not, don't complain anymore that you're going to spend time at the polling unit. Turn out from 8 o'clock, polls open. Go out and vote. Our data already showed that by 7:30, we had about 79% of our polling units, about 242 polling units open, where we were observing. So it shows that polls opened early in Ekiti. So voters should come out, because once you get accredited, you vote. So the process is easier now, and you don't spend so much time at the polling unit.
And let me also add that, this works very well also, especially for the elderly. People with disabilities too as well, because they come in, they cast their vote, and they leave immediately. But sometimes, because it's stress having to walk from a distance or leave your home from a distance to come get accredited and go back and come back. And that is why we've been talking about the reduced participation. But with this process now, right on the spot you're accredited, and right on the spot you cast your vote. And I want to believe, I'm still expecting more report from live events, from the field, but I want to believe that already probably more than 10 or more than 20 already would have been able to vote, and it's as a result of this process.
Let's look at this issue of these card readers. What's your assessment of the performance of the card readers?
I haven't received any challenges yet.
Generally speaking, before now.
All right.
There were challenges, hiccups here and there.
Yeah.
What do you make of it now? Do we continue with these card readers?
Yes.
Yeah, I say yes. Previously I hear it's because there's something covering the part where you would have to thumb print, like a leather or something from one. Yes. And I think they would have to take it off for it to be able to capture the thumb print accurately.
But
by and large, we have made headway with using the card reader.
Yeah. So if you notice in Anambra, we had less incidents of malfunctioned card readers. And before Ekiti, INEC had presented to us that they had both software and hardware upgrade. So if you'd notice, there is no more incident forms at the polling unit. Remember before we had incident forms where if your PVC is verified and fingerprint not authenticated, you'd have an incident form to fill. But INEC had upgraded the card readers with the data of voters, because once you register, they capture your biometrics, the 442, which is all your fingerprints. So now they ask you to place either of your fingerprints on the card reader, and we've seen it working better in Ekiti now, because INEC is so confident. They've told us the incident form will be present. So the only introduction is in the voter register, for instance, beside the name of the voter, there's a column called the FA. So just for any reason, just in case the fingerprint fails to be authenticated, for any reason, because they don't believe that would happen. What the presiding officer is supposed to do is to tick that column FA beside the name of the voter so that INEC can clean that up before 2019. But what we've seen is our report so far is showing that the card readers are functioning, but by towards 2 p.m. we would have better report, because then you have a general assessment of the process on how the card reader function. And I'm watching the vote checklist is tracking the use of the card readers and functionality, so we'll have more data on that also.
Reports reaching us from the field says so far so good. Everywhere is peaceful. People, the electorate, going about their businesses of doing accreditation and voting simultaneously. And right now, there's this funny issue about Nigerian politics, that women are very active in politics. And we want to take it a notch higher and give the men a challenge. But before then, we'll have this report from one of our reporters, Tayo Osho. Politics, they say, is a game of numbers, hence the need for both gender to be actively involved, for everyone's interest to be protected and to engender development in every sector of the society or the economy. In this report, Tayo is taking a look at women's involvement in politics in Ekiti State.
Records have shown that women play active roles during electioneering and voting, as they form major parts of the audience during campaigns. However, only few of them are involved in the process of governance, despite the Beijing affirmative action to which Nigeria is a signatory, which states that 35% of leadership positions be given to women. Men still call the shots in politics in Nigeria. Although women have been elected to represent their constituencies in the Ekiti State House of Assembly and the National Assembly at different times, while some had been deputy governors, respondents say the number is still a far cry from 35%. They explained that relegating women is one of the factors inhibiting development in the society, as women who have held leadership positions in the past have proven to be trusted and reliable.
And this thing started from the party politics. Political parties, they are not happy to have women at the top echelon or hierarchy of the political party within the party structures in Nigeria, and that has been the source of our problem.
These problems emanated from the Constitution, because when you look at our Constitution, the Constitution is discriminatory in nature and chauvinistic against the women. The Constitution is always emphasizing the men and leaving the women out of it.
We are running the home successfully. We are running the family successfully. We can run the state successfully. We can run the nation successfully.
Some respondents are of the view that the traditional African society does not only make keeping the home the responsibility of women, but it also sees women who are involved in politics as irresponsible. They say, although the trend is changing, the men folks and the society at large still need to encourage the women, while they advise women to support themselves to take up political and elective positions.
I believe nobody can blow a trumpet for us. If we have any quality in us, it is only when we try, it is only when we strive hard, it is only when we come out to start practicing, it is then we can build upon the quality we have in us.
The understanding men, they are now releasing their wives to participate in politics now. I want to thank God for that. Encouragement is given to the husband, given to the women.
All what we want to appeal to the state government and the federal government now is to please give us the affirmative, 35 affirmative action.
It is the consensus of respondents that more women should get involved in politics to promote gender balance in the sector that seems to be dominated by men, for their voices to be heard and necessary actions taken. In Ado-Ekiti, Tayo Osho, NTA News.
Yes, Tayo Osho there, raising issues that have to do with women's participation in politics. We'll get back to the talking points in that report, but first we must join Kende Mola from Afawo as he gives us the situation report there. We understand that Governor Fayose is there to cast his vote. Over to you, Kende. from Afao in Ekiti, telling us that all is well and accreditation and voting have commenced in that local government, particularly in that polling unit. We'll get back to him as soon as he has more situation reports from the field. Cynthia, let's get back to our discussion. Since the Beijing conference, women have been crying marginalization. 35% affirmative action is yet to become a reality.
Yeah.
In fact, far from being a reality. What is it that and the irony of it all is that we take active participation in the electoral process.
Yes.
So what are there things that we're not doing rightly that we need to start doing, strategies we need to evolve to ensure that we get our pride of place in the management of the affairs of this country or wherever we find ourselves in positions of leadership?
Yeah, I think one, I feel it's a bit sad. So look at the candidates for Ekiti, no female governorship candidates in this race. So, and that is a bit worrisome for a state that we have a high population of women. We don't have any female candidates. We do have some female deputy governor running mates candidates, right? So the thing is that it's beyond just having women aspire to participate, because we have women that want to participate.
Exactly.
The problem is within the political parties, the spaces that they create for women inclusion. Beyond the political parties, it's also our social, cultural orientation, and even our religious orientation. I think as a people, we need to start appreciating the role women play. Women are good, beyond being good homemakers, they are good managers. They multitask, because only a woman can give birth, go to work, cook, do multiple tasks, and still perform optimally. And that shows that women are diverse in our nature. So it's just about us realizing the importance of women. But I think for women also, we need to become more assertive. Because I think what we've done over a period of time is to sit back at the backstage. Even when it comes to participation in politics, you see younger women, I meet young women, they say, oh, politics is for men. I say, no, politics is not for men. I engage in governance issues because I love governance issues, and I want more young women to start getting interested in governance issues, to start appreciating that without getting involved in political decisions, decisions will be made that do not favor us as women. So we need to start getting interested and start asking questions. I'm happy in Ekiti we had women turn out to register. 49% of the registered voters are women. And we hope that after the elections, there will still be CVR till August, that more women will troop out in their numbers and register. But I need more women to start engaging political parties. If you have women aspirants in parties, women as delegates should learn to start voting for women. And even the party should start supporting women candidates, because if parties don't support you, how will the delegates, because you need parties to support you. And I'm hoping in 2019 we'll have more women coming out, at least for legislative offices, for the executive offices. Let's have more women pushing the boundaries and running this race without being deterred.
Grace, how can women push the boundaries? We keep coming and saying the same thing all over. Women they relax at the backstage. They like taking the back seat. How can we push? How can we break the barrier? Well, some people talk about strategies by the men, the late meetings and all that. But I argue the night, why can't we have politicians, female politicians, who will be meeting them, meeting with the men and taking decisions?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Well, I'm told that Durodola is in the field. Kende Durodola is in the field at Afao polling unit in Afao local government, and he's there where the governor, the incumbent governor Fayose, is about to cast his vote. Can we get back to Afao now? Kende Durodola, you're on. Okay, I think it's not getting me clearly. Like we were saying, what about breaking these barriers and getting to the center of it all, and of course, clinching victory as it were.
Exactly. I remember we had a series of forums with women and also women with disabilities participation, because you don't just talk about women being marginalized, but you talk about even women with disabilities, or even people with disabilities who could also participate actively, in democracy and governance. And when you sit with these people at forums, first, they talk about example of the late night, meetings. They talk about, how expensive it is, to first even purchase the forms and all of that. And for us, we tell them it's not even an issue, it's not a reason. And I remember a typical example where a woman leader came, she said the youth of the community ask that she gives them the support, to run for those offices first, and they in turn would give the women the opportunity. And for me, that's a lame excuse, because I screamed when I heard that. I said, why? The youth are, they're a huge demography. Themselves, they can support themselves. So women should not give the chance. They should not show their chances and their opportunities, to other, interest groups. Exactly.
Another challenge is that women don't support themselves. Why?
I don't believe
I don't believe women don't support themselves.
It's almost a general perception.
I think it's more about stereotypes.
Yeah.
So over a period of time, if you're told that if you support a fellow woman, what you're going to be doing is
Next.
Osnia, can you hear us in the studio? Okay, I think we'll get back to Kende Dorodola in Afao local government area. We're talking about women not supporting themselves.
So I think sometimes it is society. They've made you believe that a woman should be seen as a threat. That is why you see if a man marries more than one wife, they don't fight with the husband, but the two women are made to fight against themselves. And I say if you even find your husband cheating on you, you shouldn't fight with the other woman. Go and ask your husband questions, because he's the one that went out, not the woman that came into your house. So it's that societal thing. And I think what we're doing now is a reorientation. That first, you need to start seeing women as leaders, because we need to start having women vote women. But beyond having women vote women, see, politics is a game of numbers. We can't rely on only the votes of women. We need men to also support us. We also need young people to support us. So we need to start engaging women, men, and diverse groups, because that is the only way we'll get the support. And we need to start playing politics like the men do, because what they do, they build up propaganda, they build up things to sell to make you look negative. Rather than building up propaganda like they do, what we need to do is start promoting positive messaging.
Exactly.
So if a negative message is coming, one female candidate, when she was contesting, what they were doing was going about saying, oh, she's a prostitute, or no, she's not a homemaker, or oh, she's not a marriage material, different negative things start to come. And I said, instead of focusing on what you say, you start promoting, oh, this woman is a great woman, she has this her qualifications, she has held leadership positions in this place. And in fact, we start asking men questions, are you a good father? Because most times when the woman is competing, they're asking the woman, how do you manage family life and this? Nobody's asking the man, how do you manage family? So we need to start asking men, are you a good father? Because only good fathers can become leaders. Are you a good husband? Because only good husbands can become leaders. So if we start challenging men with the questions we've been challenging women, we will start creating an equal playing field. And then to start promoting the positives about women, let's stop looking at a woman as a threat. Because you can't have the face of government mean the face of a man. Look at our history. Each time you think of all the presidents, men, all the governors, men. So it looks like you are showing the face of governance in Nigeria, it's the face of a man. But Nigeria is not a male-dominated society. It's a society that has both men and women. So if our governance face doesn't represent the diversity in the society, then we are not representing Nigerians. We are just representing one group of the society in Nigeria.
Yes, we're calling for a balance. In governance.
Yes.
But how can we do this when we don't engage in lobbying and a lot of financial pulling of muscles coming to play?
Yeah, people always talk about godfathers. I said I think it's time we start having godmothers too, because we have women that can have the financial strength to support women, and we need to start investing in that. Women need to run politics like a business. But beyond that, since most women, if you look at politics, that disadvantage of that financial strength is there. That disadvantage is apparent. What we need to start doing as women is looking at the people. Now, if you have the people to support you, parties will have no other options than to negotiate with you, because parties want to win elections. Parties want popular candidates. So we need to start having women go to meet their constituents early, before the election. The election is in 4 years' time. It starts now. So 2019 is already late to start pushing. You need to, for those that have started, it's good to encourage them. But if you want one in 2023, this is time to start engaging for 2023. Let your people know you. Let your people feel your community service, how you're building their community. Because when you become popular with the people, parties will have no other options than to say, okay, we need you. Because parties want to win elections. And if you look at women that have won elections, either in the legislative houses or even as deputy governor, if you let us look at their data, you'd see that those women were women that were popular with their communities. Because once the people say, this is our candidate.
So community service is key.
It's key. You need your people to know you. Once they say this is our candidate, that is who the parties would want to
Cynthia,
work
let's hold it there for now. We're told that Duro Dola is there again to give us situation report at Afao local government area. Duro Dola. Hello, Kende Duro Dola.
This is Afao Ekiti. In the record on the local government area of the state, the hometown of the incumbent governor of Ekiti State, Mr. Ayodele Fayoshe. Right now, I'm at St. David Primary School, Afao Ekiti, Funny Unit 1A, where the governor will be casting his vote. As you can see, right now, the electorate are on the queue, exercising their civic right through accreditation and casting their vote. Any moment from now, we will be expecting His Excellency to come and cast his own vote. But presently, everything is going on where the security are on ground to ensure peace and order here. Next. Oh, Madam, I'm a Bobby.
Okay, the picture is not clear.
Yes, thank you very much, Kende Duro Dola. You've heard from him. All is well and calm at Afao local government area of Ekiti State. We were still talking about women participation in politics, and you said that the earlier we start, the better for us, and that community service is key to getting it right. Support for women by women, and of course the other segments of the society has also been brought to the fore and identified as a key ingredient for women to get to the center of it all, and of course make the face of governance in Nigeria a balanced one. We'll get back to other issues, but now we want to take a report by Kunle Adeyeye as stakes concerning participation in the Ekiti state governorship are high. People with disability are also eager to be actively involved. Have they been fully integrated in the process that will make them exercise their civic responsibility? Kunle Adeyeye sought to know in this report.
657,234 permanent voter cards have been collected, and people with disabilities are expected to be among those who have collected. Grace Jerry lives with disability, but she's not daunted by this challenge, as she remains resolute that are ready to be among the electorate that will choose the next #1 citizen of the state. She attributed this to INEC's response to as it has made provisions for this class of people from registration to the point of voting.
INEC has printed and has distributed in the communities here in Ekiti election day routine instruction poster that is going to be in every polling unit to make sure that people with hearing impairments also participate.
Jake Epele, who has championed the cause of the physically challenged for over a decade, staunchly believes they are good to go concerning the election.
We went round 2,195 polling units, and we combed and have given INEC where the numbers of persons with disability are.
They stressed the need for the Independent National Electoral Commission to always bank on accurate data to accommodate all classes of the society. In Ado Ekiti, Kunle Adeyeye, NTA News.
Yes, Kunle Adeyeye there. With that report on people living with disability and their right to express their civic responsibility, and like we have also talked about what INEC has done to have an inclusion of these special people with special needs. Any other thing to say rather than to just say thumbs up to INEC for this innovation?
Let me quickly say that Access Nigeria campaign, you know, we've been working tirelessly to improve on and increase the participation of people with disabilities. And we were here in Ekiti, I think last month, to come first sensitize the community of these people. We're talking about close to 180 persons with disabilities here in Ekiti State. And we came to sensitize them on the need to get out the vote. Get Out the Vote is a campaign where we mobilize a mass turnout of people with disabilities. It's important that you don't just sit back and allow other people decide your fate. This is 4 years we're talking about, like Cynthia mentioned earlier. And people with disabilities are going to turn out en masse to vote in this election. And we're carrying out a limited observation in the 3 senatorial zone presently, where our team are already roaming and sharing with us reports. And like I said, there's already priority voting for people with disabilities. But then we look at the election generally. You know, right now we're talking about participation of women, but what about people with disabilities themselves, where the party structures are not even you know, strong enough or are not adaptive enough for people with disabilities?
Okay, I'm told that Nnamdi is ready with a report. He gave us, he was out earlier in the day to just give an overview of what the situation is like in Ado Ekiti. Nnamdi, is over to you. We'll get back to that issue.
Indeed, we can confirm that the 2018 governorship election is officially open. The people of Ekiti have come out to participate in this exercise. Maybe I should just begin by telling you that we understand that the polls open with INEC officials already awaiting prospective voters to come out to participate in this exercise. I did speak with some of the officials earlier in some of the places we visited, who confirmed that they arrived at their designated polling stations well before 7 a.m. to allow them officially open the poll at 8 a.m. as directed by the Independent National Electoral Commission. Well, like I said, was somewhere in the heart of Ado Ekiti in Ereguru ward, where we have 3 voting units where voters have already gathered to participate in this exercise. The procedure is quite simple. A prospective voter approaches the table where INEC ad hoc officials are and presents his or her PVC, that's the permanent voters card, which is checked with the card reader machine and biometrics carried out to confirm that indeed such card belongs to the prospective voter. Thereafter, the voter's card is also checklisted against a spreadsheet that is with the INEC officials, and after which the voter is presented with the ballot paper and is allowed to go to exercise his or her vote. There are hundreds of thousands of people in streets all across Ado Ekiti, right here where we are right now. There's a large crowd of people are waiting to participate in this exercise. We see women, we see men, we see the young, we see first-time voters. We've been able to see first-time voters, of course. Like I said, we've even seen aged people participating in this exercise. I talked earlier about the voting points here. There's one far behind me there. There's also one to my right, and the people are all out here in anticipation of this very crucial exercise.
Thank you very much, Nnamdi. The people of Ado Ekiti wouldn't have asked for a better weather. You will agree with me that the day began very bright, the sky is clean, and you can see that the sun is just moderate, it's not hot, and neither is it any offensive. And they wouldn't have wished for a better day for them to start their day on this particular historic day where they'll be voting another chief executive of the state. And I'm here at this particular polling unit. It's a major junction here close to Fajui's house, and it is called Okesha in Ado local government area of Ekiti State. And as you can see, there are 2 polling units here, and the people are orderly. They are in queue here, and they are waiting for the process to begin. It is beginning a little bit late here because I can see up to now they are.
Well, if need be, we'll rejoin Muhammad Ali for that update on what earlier went down before the election started. And now we're going to Ishon to give you the situation report at Ishon, where we understand that Fayemi Kayode is the APC aspirant, governorship aspirant, is there to cast his vote.
Yes. Yes, the APC candidate, which is Dr. Kayode Fayemi. Yes, he has just arrived to cast his vote, and he's there. And he's there now casting his vote. He's there. And he's been surrounded. Yeah, he's been chaired by. He's been chaired by his supporters. You know, he's been chaired by his, by his supporters, and he's been chaired by them. And in the next few moments, we expect he will perform the civic responsibility and he will leave. And we also intend to have him live as soon as he casts his vote. So I think he has done that now. Let's try and he has done that now. So let's try and ask him some questions. Hello? The place is so crowded now. The place is so crowded, and we are really finding it difficult to assess him. But we'll wait for some moments and try to do an exclusive interview with him. So whatever he says then, we'll try and relay it. So that is the situation for now.
Ishon in Ekiti, Ishon town in Ekiti. Well, he has promised us that he will get an exclusive interview from the APC governorship flag bearer, Kayode Fayemi. We'll be waiting to see that, and let's continue. I'd like to ask you a question. How will INEC sustain this giant stride, as it were, that it has made, this inclusion of people living with disabilities, in the electoral process? How they have made a giant stride, no doubt about that. How will it be sustained?
Okay, part of the recommendations we made to them are on the short term and a long term basis. And the short term ones are things that we can begin to see from this, off-cycle elections, like, the provision of election day, procedures and processes. If possible, we could pilot the use of tactile for the visually impaired, or ballot, braille for, ballot for the visually impaired community. So for us, it's continuous advocacy to them, continue to work closely with them to redesign or even design and introduce, new and innovative ways where this community of people with disabilities can be carried along. It's about working closely and working in synergy. And INEC, it's open, working with organizations like ours, Inclusive Friends, with the Joint National Association of People with Disabilities, and with other disabled people's organizations, and then together, we can come and, make sure that all facilities are in place and accessible for these people. It's a huge number of people we're looking at here, about 29.7 million Nigerians with disabilities. And exactly.
How many of them are in tune with this?
With the Access Nigeria campaign? Interestingly, we work in every state in the country, and our approach or our link to each of these states is first working with the Joint National Association of People with Disabilities, with the various LGA coordinators of people with disabilities in their communities. Like now, we came together and we brought together the 16 coordinators, LGA coordinators of people with disabilities, trained them, and in turn, they go back to their communities and do grassroots mobilization, allowing, or rather making people with disabilities know that it is their right to come out and vote and not sit back at home. Yes, the barriers will still be in place, but there is need to surmount them and come out and vote. So that is our strategy, to get into every state, first with the 16 LGA coordinators and with the JONAPID coordinators in each of these states.
All right, thank you very much, Grace. I'd like to get back to Abuja and specifically to talk with Osaze Uzi, and we want to know from him what INEC did to achieve this inclusion of people living with disabilities in having the right to exercise their franchise. Osaze Uzi, are you here? Are you there? The Abuja studio?
Thank you so much. I'm happy that you featured quite a number of our friends. I saw the report from J.K. Pele of the Albino Foundation. I also saw Grace from Inclusive Friends. These are individuals and organizations, Joint National Association of Persons Living with Disabilities, that we've actually been interacting with and partnering with in trying to get this inclusion, which is the foreign burners of our attempt to ensure an all-inclusive process. JONAPID is the umbrella organization of persons living with disabilities, and for quite a number of years now we've been cooperating in this regard. We've also tried to say, look, in doing things we must ensure that we have data of how many people living with disabilities, the nature, disaggregate data about the nature of disabilities and where they are located. For example, if we decided to braille materials, where are we going to find these people? In Anambra, we started the use of magnifying glass for the albinos and those that were visually impaired. And from our past interactions, they said, look, one of the main things that they cannot distinguish symbols, or the prints are too small. They need something to magnify so they can be very clear about their decisions. So we provided magnifying glass, and we have done so here in Ekiti as well. We've had several interactions, both at a national level and in Ekiti, and communities of persons with disabilities. We've listened to them, and a lot of the suggestions, both the short-term and long-term, as Grace has referred to, have been put on board. And a few of their suggestions have been injected into the system. But we must also look at the legal regime and the things that we can do or cannot do. And some other suggestions are not workable. For example, the suggestions that we do particular polling units exclusively for persons living with disabilities. That is discriminatory, and we do not have that. The law doesn't allow us to have that in any case. Some of them will have to travel long distances to get to those special polling units, and that's will be counterproductive. So as much as we can, all those things that we can do, we have been doing them. We're committed to an inclusive process. It's not a democracy where the bulk of your people, a large segment, a critical segment, is left behind. That is totally unacceptable.
He's said that INEC will do all it takes to ensure that the people with disabilities are actually included in the scheme of things, and there's no going back on that. Whatever it will take, they will do it. Do you have faith in it?
Oh, I do.
Okay, let's talk about security as far as election generally in Nigeria is concerned. What do you think should actually be the role of security?
Well, I think one is to secure the lives and property of citizens as they go to the polls. And I know there have been lots of complaints in Ekiti with the level of deployment of the police. And I think one of the things that is important is that we have the police actively and professionally in such a way that they protect voters and they are protecting the INEC officials and materials. At the polling unit, you have security personnel deployed, both the police and the mixed security agencies deployed. And one of the things we want to see is that they ensure that there's law and order within the polling in such a way that even if there is some sort of rancor within polling units, that the security agents act immediately to protect the lives, because one, ad hoc officials deployed, they are there to administer the elections. We need to be sure they are secured, and we need to be sure our materials are secured. And then for the voters that turn out, we want to be sure that their rights are respected. So we don't want to hear intimidation of voters. And if there's going to be any problem within the polling unit, we want the security agencies to act immediately and ensure that calm and orderliness is brought immediately to the polling unit. And also for observers observing, sometimes you have restrictions on observers' movement, which is wrong, because as an observer, you are allowed to move. That's why we have accreditation. And we think security agencies should also respect that. We just need them to be more professional and to actively provide security at the polling unit and for citizens, so that citizens can vote without any fear or intimidation at the polling unit.
Well, one of the reports we had is from the field yesterday was that the electorate said everything was okay, why some complained about over-policing, and this was also raised by the convener of the election situation room, Clement Wankwo, when he was saying that Ekiti election to him with 30,000 policemen is being over-policed. But others feel that with the situation of, history of the past, of past elections in Ekiti, it was just appropriate to do that, to deploy that number of security personnel. What's your take on that?
For me, I think one of the things we kept talking about during, forums and, interviews is they are there to protect and not to scare the people. If you have a huge number of police or the security, maybe carrying guns and all of that, it's going to scare the people, so to say. One of the things that we held a meeting with people with disabilities, and they said for fear of too many police here and there, they may not come out. We told them the police are there to protect you. But yes, sometimes it's not deploying too much of them. I don't think it's appropriate. It's to keep it at a minimal, level, but overall, the citizens should be protected and not to be scared away. From
Thank you so much, Grace, for coming, and of course, Cynthia.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure having you. We will be handing over to Abuja studios now for more on the Ekiti Decides. Over to you, Femi.
Thank you very much, Ameze. We really have enjoyed your discussions there, but I want to put you on notice that as soon as we can get all the candidates, as many as we can get, the candidates voting, we will come back to you the shortest possible notice. So we are still waiting to get as many as those personalities as we can get. For now, we have quite a number of issues to dissect based on what we have seen on the ground. Let's start first from the security perspective. The other time, for me, it's a delight when, in spite of the number that we said we have deployed, when we see shots of polling stations and you hardly can see a uniformed personality. For me, it gives me the impression these people are tucked away somewhere just watching, not necessarily being part of the voting process. But that may be a different thinking from you. What do you think, Mr. Lakon?
The truth is that we are not supposed to be focused on. We are doing our job. I could see our men, because people are not watching out for our men. I could see them where they're placed on the screen, and they are there. They are partly invisible because they are not the focus of attention.
No, do you, when you go for assignments like this, what's the proportion of people you have in uniform and policemen you have who are not in uniform? Do you actually deploy policemen who are not in uniform?
Yes, we have our intelligence. We call it intelligence department. They are there, and they are almost the quantum is quite high.
Okay.
Yes.
We also have been told about the withdrawal of security aids for the Governor Fayoshe. But then we also have an official report from statement from the Nigerian police that it's all the candidates that you have withdrawn your aids from. What's the rationale behind that?
Yes, it's one of our plans to have a secure environment for the electoral processes to take place. You see, one of the strategies that we actually, planned that we should withdraw security details so that the none will not be of the position will not be of advantage. So they've all been withdrawn, and they will be restored after the election.
What is the advantage that a candidate gets if he has the security aids?
Well, during election processes, some of them could easily influence voters. They can, when they go in there, people sometimes they can even get scared. Voters can get scared when they see policemen, armed, because they're usually armed. That's one of the reasons why we said, okay, you go in there freely and vote.
The people you deploy to the elections are not armed?
No, they are not armed.
Okay.
They are not. Okay. We have armed people in strategic areas in case there's any problem.
Okay.
We have one unit each. Each one unit consists of 63 men. Okay. Wherever they are, when they are called at the prompt, within minutes they will be there. But those that are the police are not armed.
Okay. The electoral umpire next to you, sir. We have seen people. We saw queues, orderly queues. But when it came to personalities coming to vote, we saw the picture. Something else started to happen. What can you do about that?
Well, in an election, we recognize everybody as being equal. You're a voter with one vote. So there's equality in our own process. It's egalitarian in that sense. But in practice, truly, certain people are given preferences. Officially, the only people given preferences are those that are disabled, who are living with disability. We give preference to the elderly, to the infirm, to nursing mothers, generally, and elderly people. Those are the only people entitled to any preferences. Okay. If you notice in Edo, the candidates queued like everybody else. But there are certain localities where they feel they should defer. If a traditional ruler should come to vote, some people just feel they should defer to such institutions. In some states, some areas, maybe a presidential candidate or a governor or the president will be given preference, not necessarily by the officials, but by the people on queue. But as far as INEC is concerned, officially, there's equality of voters, but preference is given to nursing mothers and the elderly.
Barrister Fendu, Ekiti State is a homogeneous state. It was interesting to hear INEC commissioner in Ekiti say that whoever emerges governor will be an Ekiti man. Yes. In other states, it's not like that. Other states, you have many tribes. But in Ekiti, it certainly will be an Ekiti man. We've just come back from Ado Ekiti, where Ameze anchored. And we kept on moving from one Isha Ekiti to Afao Ekiti to Ado Ekiti, everywhere Ekiti. Is that an advantage in the state?
Well, I think it should be an advantage.
Sorry, please, we'll take that. Okay. Okay, please continue.
Okay, I said it should be an advantage knowing that they are just, one family, and it's a good thing. I also hope that it will douse, the tension, knowing that whoever gets it is still going to be within the family. I think it's a good thing. But Mr. Sazi, let me say that I didn't notice, in the queue, because I thought that there will be a special line for the persons he mentioned now.
Disabilities, persons with disabilities?
The elderly people, pregnant women, nursing mothers, and the rest. But so far we've seen just one line. I thought that where we have such people that we'll be able to see two different lines for them. Okay. Yeah, we need them to participate in the voting, and then the time factor also, because they need to vote as quickly as possible to go back to do other things.
When we are so I think they are ready for us in Ado Ekiti, where Nnamdi Odipo is going to give us what is happening. He has some guests lined up to talk to. Nnamdi.
Indeed, a couple of hours into the 2018 governorship elections.
Sorry, we'll come back to you, Nnamdi. Just get things okay, and we'll be there again. We were talking about people with disabilities. When people obtain or apply for their PVCs, what means do you have of knowing their disability?
Thank you. First of all, let me just quickly answer Gary. We do not necessarily give them separate queues. I think to me that is discriminatory, quite honestly. We give them preference.
Okay.
So it's the same queue, but you go ahead in the queue. So you're not going to have separate queues. Say, if you have a disability, come this way. If you're old, come this way. To me, and I think officially, that is actually discriminatory. We give them preference on the same queue, separate, but it's not a separate or equal kind of apartheid kind of a thing. You are the same as everybody else. You go to the queue like everybody else. But according to how you came, you are giving preference on that queue. So you don't have to queue, be at the back of the queue, but you go to front of the queue.
And the preference can be shown either by the INEC official or even by the citizens themselves. If someone is limping and standing on a crutch, the people can say, go forward, or the INEC official can himself come and fish them.
To identify them, but some people, for example, hard of hearing, may not have any physical disabilities, obvious, but once we know of that, they make themselves known, then we give them that preference. Sometimes the community people know themselves and know this and assist us in that. It's a cultural thing as well.
Please, you conclude that area. Nnamdi is back, and let's take your thoughts, Nnamdi. We're really having problems there. Well, signals there, but we'll get things right and get back to you. So, Mr. Saziozi, we were talking about, you were going to react to how people get their PVCs, and you identify them even at that point that they have disabilities.
Since 2017, April, we've been doing this continuous voter registration, and part of the fields that should be filled in is whether you have a disability or not. So we are capturing from now on. We did not do so in 2010 and 2011. We not capture, but we'll capture certain types of disability, especially if you didn't have fingers, and those who suffer from leprosy in their previously. So yes, we're trying to collect data on those who have suffering disability, disaggregated according to the type of disability. So that helps us for better planning, to know where to, for example, if it's tactile ballot or if it's Braille, for example, we know where to distribute things to. So there's a field in the current registration that captures the kind of disability and the nature of disability. So that not only on election day, we know that in this polling unit, there are 500 people registered, maybe 100 of them suffer from disability, and then 20 of them is this kind of disability, that kind of disability. So for planning purposes and the training of the officials is such that look out for this and know how to handle the situation. So that's part of the thing we're also collaborating with GNP.
At the point of registration, my opinion is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, my opinion is that there are two major areas of disability that INEC would want to look out for at the point of registration: blind people and the leopards or something, people who don't have fingers to thumbprint.
Yes.
People who cannot walk and all that. At the point of registration, I'm sure you really don't bother about that is more effective for voting process. Is that the true situation?
Well, you said it's an opinion, so it cannot be right or wrong, quite honestly. But no, we look at all the different types and natures of disability. The only one I cannot say for sure now is whether it's a mental disability. There are other issues associated with that. But yes, whether it's a spinal cord injury such that they're on wheelchairs, we must look at that because we have to know the layout of our polling unit, such that if there's a wide drainage, for example, we have to be careful and ensure, if it's possible, whether there's a ramp there. Or, as you can see from some of the photographs, some of the officials are seated in an elevated position. Now, is that ideal for somebody on a wheelchair? It might be ideal for somebody who might not, it's okay for somebody who's visually impaired or somebody who's hard of hearing.
No, yes, I was going to come to you. The Nigerian society itself does not consider all this.
Yes.
How can INEC break through what the Nigerian society itself does not care about?
Yeah. Well, okay, I was going to ask the question actually that at the point of registration, do we take into consideration, you know, these patterns of disabilities? Because if we do that at the point of registration, then it's going to be very easy if we are downloading, you know, the data. It will be clear that in polling unit A, these are people with these kinds of disabilities, and we can quickly, you know, set our intervention mechanisms, you know, to address their needs. And even what you've been asking for, data. So it can come when we are registering, not at the point of probably just trying to find out who's deploying and so on. So if INEC fashions out, a way of registering people and knowing whether they are disabled, I mean physically challenged or not physically challenged, it will help in generating that data. So probably you can look at that as you go on, with
but Prof, take this limitation, this big limitation of the Nigerian society, social, economic society itself, not giving attention to this class of people. I think INEC is just trying to do what the Nigerian society itself does not do.
Exactly. Yeah, no, you're quite correct, and I think all of us will have that blame. Democracy is supposed to be an inclusive process. It's supposed to promote inclusivity. Everybody must be brought on board. And I like the discussions about people with disabilities and other people that have problems. It's for everybody to be participatory. And I think that's where I'm quite happy that Nigerians are doing very well. That we are the ones keeping this democracy. It's not the politicians. You can imagine those who are on the queues. We are the ones keeping the democracy going. And I think we need to congratulate ourselves. So what I think we should be doing is, as Nigerians, we must recognize these diversities. We must make sure that they are brought on board, in the process. And we must develop new mechanisms, to keep them quite happy as they participate, in the process of democratizing, our own politics.
Okay. Now let's look at the number of political parties that are taking part in this election. Already we have 60 going to 70 political parties registered. 68. And out of this number, 35 political parties are taking part, are contesting as governors in Ekiti. How did you get your ballot boxes with 35 candidates?
Ballot papers.
Ballot papers, sorry.
Yeah, papers and boxes. Actually, yes, you're right. If I may quickly just respond to that and then come to yours. Maybe I didn't make myself so clear in the very beginning, but I did say since 2017, when we said this communal voter registration process, we have taken note of this, and there's a field in the process of registration. It's actually registration, but in 2010 this was not the case, and because that's not the case, that is why we need data, extra data, because the majority of people who are on the register now are those who registered prior to 2017. So that's the thing, and I think I might what Femi said. It's quite right. A society that does not have its own data, you're asking INEC as an institution whose primary duty is to conduct elections. You are asking for such social things, and what other agencies should be doing, the social indices that other agencies and data other agencies should be collecting. We have a framework on access, but I'm not aware, for example, that there's a national framework on disability. Disability bill is before the National Assembly, and if you don't have this, we are working in isolation. I cannot, planning purposes, for example, PUs are located in public institutions, public schools. If there is no guidance as to how this should be planned, and you do not give them planning permission, if there are no ramps, INEC cannot build ramps in most of these places. What we can do is take into consideration these things when we are planning and where we are locating polling units. Balance it with the need to locate them in central places accessible to the electorate. So these balances have to be done, and a lot more has to be done by the state. And I'm not satisfied that the Nigerian state is doing enough for PWDs. Certainly not doing enough. But part of we have a framework on access that has just been validated, working with Jonah Pete and the PWD community that has also been validated. And some of these things are part of the constitutions. We'll assist and we'll work with them to lobby, advocate, and do certain things to ensure that all things that we use as is within the context of the whole. All things we use are disability friendly. And we do our processes as such, and within our own institution and our partner stakeholders institutions as such, that in our planning we take into consideration that the critical mass have to be catered for, and we must, you're right, take care of the diversity of the nation. Coming to this issue of number of political parties, don't forget this is Anambra had 37. So in one sense, almost unprecedented, but we had that precedent in Anambra where there are 37 political parties that fielded candidates. Now there are 35, unfortunately there are 34 candidates listed for 35 parties because of a court order for one of the parties. So we have 35 parties. Well, the ballot papers, we had to do samples of the ballot paper and gave to the political parties. In fact, IPAC, which is the Inter-Party Advisory Council, also assisted in doing, with our support, did quite a bit of voter education, not only amongst members of all the political parties that are participating, but IPAC as a body also assisted us and joined us in doing sensitization. So this is what the ballot paper will look like, especially designed ballot paper to accommodate that. We just finished with the quarterly meeting with all political parties, and there are 68 parties now, but there are many who have cleared most of the hurdles. So before the 2019 election, there are likely to be more. And we show them samples of what ballot papers will look like. There's a snake example where all they are listed alphabetically 1 to maybe 100, 110, 120, nobody knows the exact numbers. All that meet the criteria will be registered, and so it will be quite long. We also showed a grid system where you have 2 or you have 3. And because of that, the capacity of the boxes, ballot boxes, you're quite right, are limited. And if 500, 800 people turn up, all those will not go into one ballot box. So part of the thing we have to do, and right now it's 2 ballot boxes, we might have to procure more spacious ballot boxes that can take as much as that. But as the law stands now, all parties that meet the criteria for registration who want to sponsor candidates will be entitled to do so. And for our planning purposes, without knowing the exact number now, we estimate that there will be over 100 political parties in the 2019 elections.
You don't have to put the pictures of the candidates on the ballot boxes. It's the parties that take the space.
We have in the past experimented with putting pictures. If all the parties comply, it could be a possibility, but for now, we have a party name, the symbol and the logo, the acronym and the logo or symbol on the ballot paper, because some people, because of the high level of illiteracy that we have in our country, people can recognize symbols. The fact that illiterate doesn't mean they cannot recognize symbols, so that's not been a challenge. We have all the symbols, and they are distinct symbols. We will not register you if your symbol is too similar to an existing political party. We will not register your association. We'll ask you to change that symbol to make it distinct. Each one is distinct so that people can easily recognize your symbol.
AIG Lakano, you before the Nigerian police came up with this step to withdraw the aids, give us an idea of how many policemen you would normally give to a candidate who applies to have protection.
It varies. Like the government house, we usually sometimes have about 50 policemen there for their various duties.
Yes.
But individually, maybe we give 2 to politicians. Those who deserve them.
Could that have informed your reason to withdraw the number of policemen you would have deployed to just candidate 35 times 2, then times the ones in government house? It would have eaten into your deployment.
No, what you see in government house, they have various duties that they perform in government house.
No, I'm not talking really about government house. We all know what government house has.
Individuals, they're entitled to guests, to guards, to security details. So we usually give them maybe 2 attached to one.
Is that why you thought, did you consider that it could eat into the number of police you want for this assignment?
No.
Why you...
What we did was to create an enabling field. Yes. That was really why we said everybody should return back to headquarters.
Okay.
Yes.
And now, Barrister Ifendu, you know that 2,195 polling units are being used for this election. How well manned, now I'm talking about in terms of security, I'm not talking about security, how well manned, both observers, NGOs and INEC officials, in your experience in observing, how well manned are each of these polling units?
How
to
well
be able
managed?
To manage or woman?
Because it's gender
Thank
sensitive.
you. For each of these polling units.
Yes, that's okay. You know, for the political parties participating, they will have their polling agents also. So INEC will also have their people, the ad hoc staff, and then the main staff. I think with all these people represented, every political party will have a feeling of, participating in the election. So I think it's well managed, it's well manned, because if I'm contesting an election and my agent is there to represent me, I don't have to be there again. Yes. And but I think the important thing is the party agents also being trained, to understand what they are there for.
Okay.
Yes, most of them do not even understand why they're there, but it's not a problem. It's not an INEC's problem. It's the candidates, the political parties that should be able to do that. Yes, but generally, I think with the presence of party agents and then the ad hoc staff and other people, the polling units are well manned, but we still go back to security of those people also. Yeah, because last election, 2015, in Rivers State, we lost some people also because of violence in erupting there. And so these people are the target, actually. Yeah, either political parties will also want to influence other party agents, or they feel that the ad hoc people are not doing what they may want them to do, whether legal or illegal, some of these things. So that's where, the police, should come in to make sure that there's a kind of a security and stability. But generally, I think with the presence of these people is okay.
Professor Shah, as a political analyst or scientist, are you satisfied with the level at which political parties in Nigeria take up the challenge of education? I see it's INEC that does all education. But the beneficiaries are the political parties. From you have looked at the Nigerian political scene. Give us your assessment of the desire of the political parties themselves to educate the electorate.
Yeah. One of the functions of political parties is to educate the electorate, explain to them, their visions, and also explain to them the party manifestos and why they think they should be elected, into political offices. I must say that some few parties would usually do this, but the situation in Nigeria, has shown clearly that this role is not being played very well by the political parties. I agree with your observation that it appears it's only INEC and probably some civil society organizations that are playing these roles, significantly. So which means that political parties are failing, in their responsibilities. I would say that if we take political parties in other climes, on a daily basis, there are programs that these parties, have earmarked and would naturally, implement these programs basically on education. So if you're not discussing international relations today, tomorrow, you'll be discussing international relations today. Tomorrow you're discussing the management of the economy. You're looking at issues, that generally affect citizens on a daily basis. And also to those of them on the opposition, I think they should play these roles more, than the ruling parties. To explain to the citizens that we are all here willing to take over the rulership of the country because we have better visions, we have better programs for this country. So I think both the ruling party and parties at various levels, various states, and also the opposition parties, should go back, to the drawing board and put education at the forefront of what they do on a daily basis.
And local governments don't even seem to have a role in this whole thing. Everybody seems to bury the local government in that, and that is possibly one of the first layer of education.
And it's a disaster at that level. When you find local governments organizing, that's parties organizing. It's only when you are either going to elect executive members, of the party at that level or at the ward level. After elections, everybody goes to sleep, and so we just look at what the governor is doing, or what the party is doing at the state level, or what the party is doing at the national level. So at those levels, hardly will find so much activity, probably because finances are not there, or probably the level of consciousness is also very low. So we think that we can step up political education, at all levels.
Now we'll continue this discussion. For now, Adebola Brooks in Sunday is waiting for us in Ekiti to give us an update of what is happening there. Adebola, we are with you. Adebola, can you hear us? We want you to give us an update of what's happening in Ekiti.
Hello?
Yeah, we're hearing you. Go ahead, please. Okay, I think we'll have to come back and continue our discussion. The current issue on the table now is education for the political parties and the voters and citizenry generally. Mr. Osazeuzi, you are enjoying your job, I'm sure, but if political parties do it well, you could have a lighter burden on you.
Well, I should know that's a case of a lighter burden, but we've got shared responsibilities. Yes. Okay. Political parties are not doing enough. They can do a lot more, but they've talked against willingness to do more than they're doing. Very often they complain about lack of funds, and that's why we try to support IPAC as a body. But I think they should do more. They should look inwards, and in other climes, political parties, some cases are supported by the state. In other cases, they from their revenues generated from membership dues and things like that. It's in their own interest. So it's enlightened self-interest.
Yes.
It's up to you to sell your, as Prof says, sell your ideas to the populace, show them how to vote correctly. It aims us each time we go, and there are a number of invalid votes. You intend to vote in this particular way, but because of the way you cast your vote, it's difficult to decipher who you wanted to vote for, or your voting is ambiguous, in which case that is invalid. So it bothers us. It will make our burden lighter, yes, if every stakeholder, not just political parties, but the media has a role to play, civil society have their own role to play, but it's in our own collective interest to ensure that, one, people come out to vote, two, they vote according to ideals and programs, not according to who dances better or who's offering maybe most empty promises and things like that. Yeah. And so they're enlightened when they come to vote, and they are less invalid votes. That will make our job much easier and better for society.
Let's hope Adebola is now ready for us. Adebola, we are joining you again. I hope you can hear me loud and clear. We just want an update from you from Ekiti. We're really having problems of network there, but he seems to have dropped. Madam, of recent, give us what you know from statistics, whether it is good that we are having less number of votes being invalidated now, which is a fallout of level of education and level of compliance with the voting process. Is the level high or low now, as we have, in terms of votes being invalidated?
Yeah, I'll take it back to the voter education that's been carried on. But I can't talk about Ekiti now because of the number of...
Certainly, we have not counted votes yet,
yes,
so we wouldn't
but
know.
We will expect also that it will also come up where we have invalid votes, because with the number of... I have not seen a copy of the ballot paper, but I know that with the number of political parties, we'll have to also, think towards that direction. Yes, and it will also go back, because INEC, I am sure, gave the copies to political parties, and it was an opportunity for parties themselves to reach out to their members to say this is what it is, and if you have to vote for a particular party, this is how to thumbprint and everything. That I'm not sure that parties did, and the problem with that is because political parties are just there to win an election. The recruitment process is not okay, so most times they don't even have people with capacity to occupy certain positions that will help them begin to teach people people or talk to the electorates on what to do. So it's going to be a problem for parties and not for INEC, because INEC really, they don't have anything to lose. If they are put in place everything they think is necessary for us to have a good election, and the political parties themselves are not building on those things that are in place, then it will be a problem. And then because our idea really in this country is not you know, to use our manifesto to achieve anything. What we think of is however we are going to win. That's the most important thing. Let's win. And so they are not teaching, you know, the people the necessary things to do. It's going to be a problem. But it's the political parties actually that will be losers.
So, Mr. Lakono, would it be a requirement for an average police officer to have political education? Do your boys, do your officers, whether rank and file,
we are members of the society?
Okay.
So it's compulsory. Yes. We do educate our boys, like I said. We encourage them to attend seminars, workshops. We hold meetings with various groups in respect of elections, and they know what to do. Okay. That's why, for now, I just got feelers from all the area commands that the distribution is perfect. Areas calm and quiet in our balance. So there's peace, total peace in Ekiti for now, and it's going to remain like that. It's part of the education. They've been well brought up, they've been well taught, so I don't see them infringing any of the electoral laws. And those who infringe, we are ready to pass on them.
When I was told that you are also, for this election, you are a coordinator, one of the offices you hold now, apart from being AIG Zone 7, is that you are also helping to coordinate, oversighting the election. How do you do that from Abuja?
Just like what we are doing now, coordinating, using technology. We use technology too. Okay. Then we have a fusion center upstream in Abuja. Okay. We also have in Ekiti. So we complement each other. So we know what is going on. As I'm sitting with you, they are giving me a feedback on what's going on there. Okay. That's why I'm relaxed. I'm happy that there's no problem. And we have succeeded in removing anxiety from the mind of the IG. Okay. Okay. So let's also dwell on this security. Did the IG have anxiety? Everybody has, including...
Why did anybody have anxiety over Ekiti election?
Ekiti, like I said, is a flashpoint. It's really a flashpoint, and at the end of the day, everything works out fine from experience, because we have a way of doing our after-action review of events there. But Ekiti, it has always been like that. Maybe people are too politically conscious, I wouldn't know. Maybe they are aggressive, but when it gets to Ekiti, we're all on our toes until after the... But I'm sure at the end of the day, we will have cause to smile.
Okay. Now, Ayodeji from Ikere is joining us to give us an update. Let's hope the road is clear for us to talk to you, Ayodeji.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, Ayo. What's the update like there?
Hello?
I am hearing you, Ayo. If you are hearing me, just go ahead and give us an update.
Hello? Hello?
He cannot hear us. We can hear him very clearly. We keep working at it. We'll keep working at it. Let's go back to the prof for a little more on politics in Nigeria and in Ekiti. We also know that, did I talk about it at the beginning, that the number of governors we have had in Ekiti is a little on the high side for the number of elections we have had in since 1999 when we returned to democratic rule. What can be done in a political situation to help ensure stability in the state, even while respecting the multi-party system that encourages all comers into the polity?
Well, before I respond to that, I would want to continue the discussion of the AIG. And this is based on the question that you asked. Why so much interest in Ekiti? I think one, he's correct in saying that, well, it's a volatile state. But again, with these elections, we know that that state, Ekiti State, is the only state in the southwest that is being governed by the PDP.
Okay.
And so much stakes, so much interest. The ruling party, is interested, in capturing political power in that state. And so that interest, is there.
Yes.
The second point is that the present governor, whether you like him or not, he has carved out a niche for himself, and he has carved out a name for himself.
Okay.
He talked about stomach infrastructure. Many of us laughed, at that coining.
Now it has become a national language.
People talk about that. Theoretically, and what we tell students in the class is that this is someone who has tried, to breach. He has tried to breach. I must say he has breached. He has tried to breach the gap between
himself. Before he cuts off his line again, let's take Ayodeji. I hope Ayodeji is hearing us now. Ayo, please talk to us on the update in Ikere.
This is Ayodeji Ogunshakin from Ikere Ekiti, in Ekiti South of Ekiti State. Voting started early by 8 o'clock in the morning, and there was no problem as every necessary materials were ready. And voters, the electorate, conducted themselves peacefully. The candidate of the People's Democratic Party, that's Professor Olu Shola Eleka, however, could not vote presently because of the challenges having with the card reader. He has made about 2 or 3 attempts to get that done, but the card reader is yet to get the card accessed. But in a swift reaction, the National Commissioner, Antonia Simbili, drove down to the voting point to attend to the situation, and she gave an assurance that the issue will be addressed as soon as possible. In fact, the National Commissioner just had a talk with the candidate of the PDP, who is currently at the venue of the election, the voting point, and is still trying to make an attempt to get his card reader accessed. And presently, he's still there to make another attempt. And hopefully, with the assurance given by the National Commissioner of INEC, the person of Mrs. Antonia Simbili, she said every necessary measure will be put in place to make sure that he gets voted before the end of the day. So that's the situation presently from Ikere Ekiti. Everything is being put peacefully with electorate conducted themselves without any fear of molestation. And the security arrangement is very okay with the people in the community. So that's the situation for now from Ikere Ekiti, in Ekiti South local Central District of Ekiti State.
Ayodeji, let's hold you on a little bit. If you can hear me, Ikere is a hotspot, particularly that 3 major candidates are from Ikere town. Is that rivalry reflected in the voting process so far? Okay, he can't hear me. I guess let's go on there. Well, I think we'll look for someone to respond to that issue. But let's continue on your track, Prof, as you were saying.
I was making the point that Ekiti is the only state in the southwest that's been governed by the PDP. APC is interested, in getting a hold on power there, and that is, helping to build, an intensive competition for these elections. And like I said earlier, it is likely going to give us, high turnout because of that. Secondly, I was making also the point that The present governor, has developed a style of leadership. You know, he wants to penetrate, citizens, and he has this idea of the stomach infrastructure, whether it's working well or not, but at least that, is working for him, getting close to the people. I'm not saying that my friend Dr. Fayemi is not doing well, but he has his own style. He's ideologically, well-grounded, and he thinks that he can run the state, in such a way that institutions, can be built. So that clash, is going to be there. We'll just wait, for at the end of the day and see who takes the day. But the main question that you've asked, governors, so many governors. Ayofayoshe 2003 to 2006. That's about 4 years. Chief Friday Aderemi, who acted 2006. 1 month. Tunji Olorin was military administrator of the state, just 1 year. Tope Adeluluyi, he also acted, for 2 months in 2007. Then we have Shegun Oni, who was the governor 2007 to 2010, about 4 years. Then Dr. Kayode Fayemi, 4 years, 2010 to 14, and then Ayofayoshe 8 years. Now there are many.
Yes.
Now
the reflection of the political turmoil.
Yes, those who acted. Yes. And those who were fully in office. But I think two scenarios here. Our constitution allows, for 8 years. Yes. So if you have done just 4 years and you're unable to continue for another 4 years, it shows the kind of competition that is going on there. Yes. And the turf is so competitive. Okay. And I think Fayoshe is lucky that he has made 8 years. Yes. No one amongst them has made 8 years.
8 years, but with a broken time.
Yes, with broken time. But I think what we need to recognize is that this is a society that is politically conscious. Yes. This is a society that is willing, to have leadership in appropriate positions, to lead the state forward. And I think we need to give it to Ekiti.
Thank you very much, Professor Pandong Xiang, political scientist from University of Jos. We thank you for your insight. We are told that you have to leave. So as we go to Ekiti to meet Adebola Brixton Sunday, who will be giving us an update, we want to thank Professor Pandong Xiang for coming on Nigeria Decides. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Adebola,
much.
now we are with you. Give us an update of what's happening in Ekiti.
Areas, that is Ikole and Omuo.
Okay.
Our first port of call was Ward 5, Unit 15, near the Olori Palace in Odorin. At that area, eligible voters here was estimated to be 906, and the turnout was much, which can be described as impressive. And the process was on peacefully as at the time we were there. We then moved to Ward 5, Unit 5 at Ijebu-Agege, one of the largest polling units we visited. It has 1,115 voters, and they are all were all conducting themselves in a peaceful manner. We were also at Ward 6, Unit 6 in Oduoro, with a voting strength of 371. And the one unique thing we discovered or saw at this polling unit was the preferential treatment given to the elderly. In all the places we visited so far, candidates were working optimally, and there is no any case of anybody not finding his name or her name on the voter register. At the same time, we saw domestic and international observers on duty. We are now heading to Omuo, precisely from where we will return to Ado-Ekiti for other proceedings.
that you have mentioned. Who are the major contestants from that area? I hope they also have been able to vote. Okay. Thank you, Adebola. At least that is good enough for us to know what is happening in Ikole. Let's come back to the studio here and let's give some of our guests who have an added duty of also monitoring the field to give us updates too. Just like we have told some of our reporters to give us updates, perhaps let me start with INEC. What updates do you have from the field?
Well, fortunately, generally, the states have been peaceful. Elections have been going on quite well. Over 90% of the feedbacks I've gotten is that polling started as of when due, accreditation and polling. Most of the corpus and the staff got into place much earlier than the voters did, by 7:20, 7:30, many of them done so. There are reports, I must admit, that there are one or two challenges with the card reader, but it's a question of network. Okay. There are some places in Ekiti where there are competing networks, and you choose which one is better, because the network today hasn't been as good. So if you choose Glow and service, and that supply is stronger at this very moment, it oscillates. Yes. So, but that has been.
It's for us. Perhaps it may be a major thing, because you see that we have experienced it here, even here in the studio. Now, I hope it can't necessarily disrupt all your beautiful plans or part of your beautiful plans.
It's actually isolated. There are not that many places where that has occurred. In many other places, it's gone smoothly. But in some cases, I'm happy that you have also experienced it. In some cases, we've experienced that. There was one incidence of a battery issue, which the technical people have given me feedback that they're going to resolve, and the people on ground have confirmed that they're going to resolve that.
Okay, AIG, let's have updates from you.
So far, so good. I'm happy that voting is on. Of course, this means that the senior officers on ground, those in charge of movement of electoral materials, are up to the task. And there's no complaint whatsoever from any of the offices. So for now, the area is calm.
Thank you very much. We'll take another break from the Abuja studio, and I will go to Ado-Ekiti, our NTA Ado-Ekiti studio, and see if any changes have taken place in the last 1 hour or so that we have returned. Some of our monitoring officers here, both for INEC and the Nigerian police, have given us updates based on what is being fed to them, and they have an added responsibility of, in addition to talking to us and educating us on the processes here, they also have an added responsibility of monitoring the field. And thank God for technology, they have been able to give us an update. Let's now join Ameze for more updates from the ground, on the ground in Ado-Ekiti. Ameze, I hope you're ready to take over from here. Thank you.
Yes, Femi, we are ready. Our guests are already in the house. It's like it's a ladies' affair. We look like we are not gender friendly this afternoon, but things will turn around. I think we have given the men a challenge, and they're out there trying to trying to exercise their civic responsibility. Yes, I have as my guest in the house this afternoon, this morning. Yes, we're still in the morning, and the coordinator of the New Generation Girls and Women Development Initiative is right here with us. She's Abimbola Aladejare. I hope I'm right.
Yes, you're
It's
right.
good to have you.
Vote Not Fight convener.
Okay. Yes, Vote Not Fight campaigner.
Yeah.
That's who you are, and of course the people working with you. I also have as a guest in the studio Ambassador Chinwe Madweke. She's the head of Mission African Union. She's actually in charge of Social and Economic Council of the African Union, ECOSOC.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon.
Yes, you were in the field earlier in the day before you came right here. I want you to briefly tell us what you have experienced right in the field.
We set off this morning by 6 o'clock. A lot of people were actually out and about, going to exercise their civic rights and duties. And it was calm, peaceful. The security personnel were already on the ground, very visible. INEC officials as of 8 o'clock. We started from the outskirts and worked our way into Ado-Ekiti. Most of the INEC officials were already upset and they were ready to go.
Some early of them delivery of the materials.
Yes, the deliveries of the materials, there was absolutely no complaint about those. Everything was all set. People were there, all well organized, and they were ready to start.
Everything was pretty much proper.
Yes.
Do you have a different impression?
No. The impression is same. From the reports from our LGA coordinators across the 16 LGAs, the card readers are working perfectly. INEC materials, arrived on time, and people started accreditation and voting at the same time. So the report so far is that the polling units are peaceful. From the reports that we've gotten from our LGA coordinators.
Okay. No security breaches.
No, so far.
No,
so far, none.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll continue with this discussion. For now, we want to get to Nnamdi Odikpo, who will give us a situation report from where he is right now. Nnamdi, it's over to you.
Of hours into the 2018 governorship elections here in Ekiti State. It's been quite a progressive exercise. We have had the opportunity to move around quite a bit, and I can tell you that voters are coming out to participate in this exercise. Very quickly, let me speak to some of the guests that have lined up here already. They are voters who have already exercised their franchise. I would begin by talking to the lady that I have here. Please just tell Nigerians your name.
My name is Famojimo Elizabeth Omodele.
Very quickly, please tell us about the vote and how it went for you.
The vote was peaceful. Everything was going on smoothly as we planned.
How much time did it take for you to cast your vote?
It didn't take up to 2 minutes. It's not up to 2 minutes.
Okay. What are your expectations from this exercise, or what do you expect? How do you expect the conduct of the elections to go?
My expectation is just for everything to be fine. We want everything to go on mostly without any problem. We don't want any problem in Ekiti State. So everyone should just vote for their own this thing, and so everything will be able to be okay.
Thank you so much, ma. Thank you so much, ma. I've got someone else here that I would like to speak to. Baba Ekason, about so far on Nigerians. Ngatelo Digbo. Báwo ló ṣe lọ?
Ìgbà tí mo lọ dìbò kò sí wàhálà rárá. Joseph Adeniyi ní orúkọ mi. Kò tiẹ̀ gbà mí ní ìṣẹ́jú kan bí mo ṣe dé báyìí mi délé tí mo mú nọ́mbà mi fún wọn ládẹ̀kọ̀ orúkọ mi tán fún mi ní kìnní mo dẹ̀ dìbò mo kúrò ńbẹ̀.
Kí lẹ rò ń pa election yìí tó ń ṣẹlẹ̀ ní Ekiti State? Ẹ ti ṣe elections tẹ́lẹ̀. Ẹ̀yin as citizen of Ekiti State, kí lẹ rò, kí lẹ fẹ́, báwo lẹ fẹ́ kí election yìí kó lọ?
Ó wù mí kó lọ rọ́rọ̀ bó ṣe lọ kó wà ní àlàáfíà, kó má sí jà, kó má sí wàhálà rárá. Bá a ṣe débẹ̀ tá a tẹ̀ka tá a dẹ̀ kúrò tí ò sí nǹkan kan kó máa rí bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ.
Well, that's basically it. Most residents, most voters here in Ekiti State would want this exercise to progress quite peacefully and age-free. Femi, we will be coming back to you as we move around parts of Ado-Ekiti. We also intend to leave the city center and explore what is happening outside of Ado-Ekiti, in the fringes particularly of Ekiti State. We will be reaching you quite soon. It's back to you in the studio.
Thank you, my itinerant reporter Nnamdi Odikpo there, giving us the situation report. And from Ekiti Southwest Local Government Headquarters, Ilawe, Ekiti, Mohammed Abdul Kadri reports that 2 governorship candidates from that area have voted. Mohammed Abdul Kadri, let's hear it all from you.
This is Ilawe, Ekiti, about 15 minutes drive to Ado-Ekiti, the state capital. Ilawe Ekiti is the seat of power and the headquarters of Ekiti Southwest local government area of the state. It has 8 wards out of 11 wards in the local government area. It is also ranked as one of the most populated communities, the 3rd in ranking in the state. Ambassador Dare Bejide, the governorship candidate, trying to cast his vote right there.
So far so good. It has been very peaceful in terms of the security here. The INEC officials have been very friendly, and the voters have been very peaceful too.
Right now, I'm with one of the governorship candidates in Senator Bode Olowo Poroko. Sir, what has been your observation generally about the exercise?
Well, I've been to the voting center, I've voted, and my observation of that center, of that booth, is that it's orderly and well arranged.
Well, so far so good. We are glad that everything is going on well, and it is my firm belief that our people will live up to expectation.
From St. Michael Primary Ward 2 in Ilawe, Ekiti, it has been Muhammad Abdul Kadir, and it's back to the studio for continuation of Ekiti Decides.
Thank you very much, Mohammed Abdul Kadri. Gentle ladies, despite the earlier apprehension that there will be security breaches and all that, it seems that everything is calm, prim and proper, and the electorate seems to be well behaved. What do you think we have done rightly that may be said to be responsible for this peaceful conduct?
Well, I like to say that Ekiti people are peaceful people. Ekiti State is known to be a very peaceful state right from the beginning. You know, you laugh. Well, I'm from here.
You know
so
why I'm laughing?
I can give
the
you
history
the report.
book shows something
so
contrary.
Ekiti actually is a very peaceful, and the Vote Not Fight campaign with support from NDI, UK Aid and US Aid have really done a lot of grass work, you know, to ensure that this election is peaceful. We have been to the 16 LGAs. You know, we have a statewide structure of the Vote Not Fight campaign, whereby we have in each of the LGA, we have one Vote Not Fight LGA coordinator minimum. So we have a total of 20 LGA coordinators who have gone to their LGA coordinators to recruit ward level volunteers who are doing nothing but working on Vote Not Fight. So in the 177 wards, we have 177 Vote Not Fight volunteers who on a weekly basis, they've been trained a month and a half back. So from then till now, up till this morning, you know, they've been engaging, they've been on social media, going to their extreme community, you know, talking to Okada riders, talking to motorists, talking to political party actors. You know, they've been on the field, you know, doing a lot of work. And on our part at the state level, we've also had our town hall engagements at the senatorial district. We have 3 senatorial districts, and each of the senatorial districts, we've gathered about 900 young people, you know, talking to them about why we need to say no to violence this election, because the election is about us, and young people in the past have been known to be perpetrators and victims of violence. So of course, in the past elections where there have been violence here and there nationwide, you know, schools have been shut down, universities have been shut down, primary, secondary schools have been shut down. This affects our education. So this message we've taken to young people across the Ekiti State, you know, to embrace peace and not to allow themselves to be used by any politician. So if any politician wants to use it, let them come forward, you know, with their own children. And we've had several messages at billboards. We are the only election stakeholders in the state that have billboards across Ekiti State, you know, telling young people to vote and not fight. And the way it is, our message is very simple. The message is vote, not fight. Election will be war. So we've done a lot of that. Then we also had this peace concert. We know that young people, we learn while we play.
Yes.
You know, we had this peace concert where we brought a music icon in the person of Two-Face Adibia, who is also the brand ambassador of this campaign and is fully supporting this campaign. It came live, you know, in Ekiti State, and we had thousands of young people gather from the 16 LGAs. So we had our LGA coordinators mobilize young people, from Okada riders, from tertiary institutions across the state, where we talked about, the forthcoming election. And of course, we also had our peace youth agenda, developed in our 3 town hall meetings. We invited our gubernatorial candidates, some of them honored our invitations, and we shared, this youth agenda with them. This is what young people are saying, and the young people in Ekiti State have identified 5 priority areas that they want the coming governor or the government, to pay attention to. All of this we've shared with the candidates that were present, at our town hall meetings, and we will also be sharing that, with others who couldn't make it for the program. So we've done a lot of work, like massive work. You need to see what our LGA coordinators are doing on a daily basis. We also have our team song. The media is also doing a lot of work. We have our phone-in programs on radio, where young people come to discuss about this election. We tell ourselves, this election is about us. When you're talking about election, we are electing people that will take care of the future, say 4 to 8 years. So you are giving them the right to decide what happens to our future in the next 4 to 8 years. So we need to take it seriously. There have been inducements here and there. So we have tried to tell young people, say no to this money, because once they give you money, they induce you. At the end of the day, once they assume power or position, that is what they will get back. They got this money from somewhere and they have to return them. So, and we tell young people, there was this analysis that we did. If a politician, for example, gives you 4,000 naira, 5,000 naira, to vote for them, so you need to know that you have received your salary for the next 4 years, and when you look at 5,000 naira, you divide it by 30 days, divide it by 12 months, divide it by 4 years. So at the end of the day, you have like maybe 1 naira or 50 kobo, as your monthly salary from this politician. So we had this analysis with our young people, and we told them, our supporters, the NDI, they were all over, they were giving us all the support that we needed, and the programs, we can say if this election is totally zero tolerance to violence, we will be glad, because we have really labored. Day and night we have labored to ensure this election is peaceful.
Abimbola, for almost 4 hours into the election, everything is peaceful. It shows that you have done some great work. Just like you're speaking passionately about
really have,
all that you have done. Let's hear from Madueke, Ambassador Madueke. What actually has the African Union done to ensure that elections generally are not hijacked by disgruntled politicians or elements, by thugs that they have built over time? What has the union done?
The African Union ECOSOC, which is the cluster or the committee which I belong to, we've done a lot of sensitization for the Nigerian citizens. To date, I'll focus more on Ekiti, since this is where I am. We've done a lot of pre-election sensitization. We have been on the ground in Ekiti here well over a year now, trying to get people to, mobilized, sensitizing them, not just focusing on the youth, but the general public at large. Because when you go into the polling stations this morning, you've got the elderly actively participating in the electoral process. And the other thing as well is not just the African Union sensitizing the people. The people are actually very much aware of what their vote means, the importance of their vote, even though they might be a singular entity, but together they create, the necessary change that there needs to be for them, whichever way they see it. What the African Union does is to empower them, make them much more aware as well of what the validity, the power of their vote. Therefore, going into the local government areas, going into the senatorial districts, engaging with the grassroots on the ground, and then now also engaging with the CSOs that we have got.
Civil society groups?
Yes, making sure that we're engaging with them, making sure that they actually know what it is they're supposed to look out for. How do we reach the people in the rural areas? Sometimes we only focus on the city, but then this time around making sure that everyone is empowered and sensitized as well, as best as we can.
Let's quickly look at this issue of malfunctioning of the card readers. I thought there was a backup arrangement to forestall this challenge, this challenge that may arise.
Yeah,
the use of the evidence form as backup.
This morning,
so that shouldn't actually be a problem.
It shouldn't. Technically, it shouldn't have been. Of course, all mitigating circumstances were put in place trying to stop that. However, technology does have its faults somewhere along the line. We just try to minimize them as best as possibly can. Going out this morning with the African Union team, we identified 1 or 2 polling stations that the card readers were not fully functional. Some of them were functional, well, they were not 100%, some, not all. At a particular polling booth, we had one of the card readers, for the thumbprints and that, might not work, and then works at the next for the next person. So it doesn't mean to say that it just ceases to work. However, going back to the contingency plan, which is, because I asked at every single word that I went to, what is the contingency plan? They've got the manual, verification, whereby they've manually verify people.
Okay. Ambassador Madueke, we'll just put you on hold. We have a situation report coming from the field from Adebola in a telephone conversation. He's going to give us a situation report from his present location. Over to you, Adebola.
Thank you, studio. Our crew is covering 2 local government areas. That is Ikole and Omuo. Our first port of call was Ward 5, Unit 15, near the Oloris Palace in Oduori. Eligible voters there was estimated to be 906, and the turnout was much, which can be described as impressive. And the process was on peacefully as at the time we were there. We then moved to Ward 5, Unit 5 at Ijebu-Agege, one of the largest polling units we visited. It has 1,115 voters or eligible voters, and they are all conducting themselves in an orderly manner. We were also at Ward 6, Unit 6 in Oduoro with a voting strength of 371. But one unique thing we saw at this polling unit was the preferential treatment given to the elderly. In all, anyway, the places we visited, card readers were working optimally, and there is no case of people not saying their names or finding their names on the voter register. We also saw domestic and international observers on duty. We are now heading to Muo, from where we will return to Ekiti for other proceedings. Thank you very much. It's over to you.
Thank you very much, Adebola Brooks Lane Sunday, another itinerant reporter for this great event, Ekiti Decides 2018. We're still talking with you, Ambassador Madueke, and we're talking about what should have was in place to forestall the challenges that may arise with the card readers. And you were telling us what you have observed. What more can you let us into?
The contingency plans, I believe, were put in place by INEC. Of course, it shows that a lot of research went on to the previous election, and then a lot of things were also taken on board. Corrections were made with the card readers that I personally saw together with the African Union ECOSOC team. They were fully functional. However, in a case whereby it was not functioning, the contingency plan of having them being cross-checked, the voter being cross-checked, was fully implemented every step of the way.
All right. Thank you so much. We'll be handing over the baton of discussion to Abuja Studios. Just before we go, we want to quickly we want you to quickly give us your last thoughts on, generally, on why we were talking behind before we came on stage. You talked about a place where you noticed some exchange of whatever, where exactly?
Well, from some of the reports that we've been getting, we've been in touch with our LGA coordinators, and we've heard cases of some parties trying to induce, voters in some locations. But we were told that the security operatives, stepped into the matter, and those activities were put on hold and, stopped.
Nipped in the bud.
Yeah, so
the police.
The police was right there.
That's quite
to stop
commendable.
that. Yes, from the reports we got. So.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you for having
Abimbola Aladejere.
Thank you for having me.
And of course, Ambassador Madueke.
Thank you.
It's been nice having you
Thank
talk to this issue of Ekiti election 2018. Femi, I think you take it over from us here now.
Thank you very much, Ameze. While we were in Ado-Ekiti with Ameze and her team, Mr. George Agbakahi joined us. He is the president of the African Democratic Alliance and a political analyst. These are the people who have been helping us as civil society organizations to monitor elections. Now you are in Abuja. Give us your thoughts of this election so far.
Thank you very much. Actually, Ekiti State, for the past decade, has been the centerpiece of Nigerian politics. And this election today, give and take, is a replay of the 2014 governorship election in that state. If you analyze it properly, you will find out that the same major actors are the individuals that are all involved in these particular elections. Talk about Engineer Oni, who was a governor in Ekiti, I believe 2007. Then talk about Fayemi, who took over from him in 2010. Then of course Fayose, who to me, has been a controversial figure in Ekiti politics. He has always been there, even though his deputy is the candidate in this election. I believe the whole world knows that he is the that Fayose is the de facto contestant of the election. So when you take all this into consideration, you also have to focus attention at the upcoming 2019 general election, whereby the two major political parties needs Ekiti State badly. Ekiti State, as we all know, is the only PDP state in the southwest. And PDP badly needs Ekiti for them to be, functional in the 2019 general election in the southwest. And my source has told me that if PDP wins this election today, Fayose himself will probably be one of the contenders for vice presidency under PDP.
So he's not just fighting a succession battle, he's also fighting a survival battle.
Of course. If PDP wins, he's a step towards becoming the vice presidential candidate of PDP. Then on the other hand, APC needs these states badly because APC wants to, get all the southwest states. And losing Ekiti now, we all know the importance of, a governor in a general election, especially presidential election. So those are the issues. Now, with regards to the election today, so far, it's been a very peaceful election. The security agencies have conducted themselves in an orderly manner. And INEC officials, except very few skirmishes where they arrived late in some of the polling booths, as well as, late arrival of voting materials.
Okay.
But all the same, generally,
Yes.
it has been a great election so far.
Thank you very much. We will soon take a major break from the Nigeria Decides studio. But before we, sorry please, Ekiti Decides studio. But before we do that, let's use this opportunity, the remaining few minutes, to take updates from our guests here. And let's start first from the police angle. These are people who, again, I repeat, in addition to feeding you with information that's going on here, also have their ears on ground in Ekiti. So let's start with you, AIG Taiwo Lakano, for updates you have received.
Well, I'm very happy over the messages I've been, receiving concerning the actions of our men there. People are very pleased, and we are being commended. That's a good one. The commissioner in charge of Ekiti South just called to tell me that there were skirmishes in one of the polling booths, and maybe I'll call it an altercation. We had some talks, wanted to snatch ballot boxes, and 4 of them were arrested. Yes, I just got the information now.
Okay.
Which shows the level of alertness of our men.
Before I take your inputs, Mr. Sazeuzi, what effect does that have, snatching a ballot box?
It's difficult for them to appreciate the fact that things have changed. You snatch a ballot box has absolutely no effect whatsoever. The worst that will happen is the election will be cancelled and possibly rerun on another day.
Why would there be cancellation if a ballot box is snatched? That's why we want to know what effect it has.
Yes, if a ballot box is snatched, then the integrity of the result in that unit has been compromised. Okay. If it's snatched and it's retrieved immediately, that's okay. But if it's snatched and taken away, you don't know what they could have done with it or not done with it.
And what effect that figure would have on the election?
You cannot tell what effect that will have on the overall election until the whole thing has been collated and results returned. If it does not have an effect, then we'll go ahead and make a declaration. But practically, it has no effect. Because if it's going to have an overall effect on the overall election, we will rerun that unit or that area where that has happened. And this time we'll mobilize and get more security involved because we'll concentrate on that area now. So practically, it's of no effect.
From the stories you have, the reports you have, was the ballot box retrieved?
Retrieved immediately.
Immediately?
Yes.
Okay. And people were arrested?
4 of them arrested.
Okay. Okay. And now, let's have your update, sir.
Yes, I just want to corroborate what the AIG said. I have pictorial evidence of that, actually, and there was a quick intervention of the police, and the roving unit was called in armed because I think they wanted to take advantage of the fact that the security details at the unit are not armed. But within a few minutes, they had come and restored order, and we'll see to the prosecution after the conclusion of the investigation into that. So send a message to people that look, this thing does not pay. But on now updates, things have gone relatively well. Just before we went on the break, we did see that the PDP candidate was having issues. That has now been resolved, and from the feedback, he has now voted. Apparently, our engineers stepped in, and they now found out that the candidate was having difficulty in reading his card. Initially, we thought it was a network, but we now found out that the antenna in his card was broken.
Okay.
And when that is broken, there is the issue of transmission of information from the PVC to the carrier. That's why we keep emphasizing that handle your PVC with some care. It's a sensitive, it's not just a permanent voter's card, it's a sensitive card. It has a lot of information stored in. And if you put it in your back pocket and sit on it or handle it in any way, the antenna can get broken. And once the antenna is broken, there's difficulty in communicating with the card. So that has now been resolved. It was seen to be genuinely his card. His name was on the register, so it was acknowledged and has now been allowed to vote. But obviously, if he comes back to us, we'll have to replace that card because it's now damaged because of that broken antenna within the card. Because every other person there, it was a seamless, apart from those with damaged cards, it was a seamless process.
Okay. And finally, Barrister Fendu, let's have your winding up thoughts as we wind up this first segment of
give and take, the elections are going it's going on very well. People turned out really good. I didn't expect the number of people that I've seen so far. So I hope that generally it will end up well.
And they'll make you feel like being there since you...
Yes, my sisters, they are doing a wonderful job, so I appreciate what they are doing.
I want to thank you very much for staying on with us in the last 3 hours in the studio, informing Nigerians on the proceedings in Ekiti. Barrister Efendu, Osazeuzi, Lakanu, and Mr. Abakahi. Thank you very much for coming. The studio, Ekiti Decides studio, will reopen at 2 o'clock, and you're sure that time voting is expected to have concluded, and we have fresh and new stories coming to you from Ekiti. So far, it has been a good story of an election going on well, and we hope it continues and concludes that way. I'm Femi Okewo with the pleasure of being with you in this session. 2 o'clock, Ekiti Studios will reopen. Thank you.